Hokage I can only draw S rank rewards. Chapter 361 to 386. Chapter 361 Bottom of Hell. Escape from Hell. How? Based on Lei Luo's understanding of Hell in the God of Death, it seems that the only way to leave Hell is through the Gate of Hell. As for the cracks that appeared between Hell and the world for no reason in the original plot, it is obvious that they did not exist during the time when Lei Luo came. But now the gates of Hell are closed. And according to the information Lei Luo got from the Blame, it seems that the Gate of Hell is not only connected to the present world, but also may go to the bottom of Hell, and even enter the jingling court where the God of Death is located, or the virtual circle of life in the virtual gate. Time is pressing. The meaning of Hell will rush to this place at any time. It will be a scene of gathering all the meanings of Hell in Hell. It will never be as simple as a few meanings of Hell. At that time, facing the meaning of Hell surging like a swarm of bees, Lei Luo may not be able to escape without injury. And as long as Lei Luo is in Hell, he will never be able to escape the pursuit of the meaning of Hell, which means that Lei Luo will face the eternal pursuit of the meaning of Hell. And the meaning of Hell can't really die. In other words, as long as Lei Luo is in Hell, he will continue to fight the undead monster, the meaning of Hell, until the cloth of Hades is taken away. If the situation really develops to that stage, perhaps Lei Luo will choose to throw away the Pluto cloth, but now, Lei Luo still decides to try something in his heart. Since there is some connection between the Pluto's cloth and the death god's world, I might as well try whether the Pluto's cloth can open the door of this hell. With a flash of divine light, Lei Luo jumped into the air, wearing the holy robe of Hades, and approached the huge gate of hell in the air step by step. Coming to the front, facing the huge gate of hell, Lei Luo noticed that the Pluto holy clothes on his body suddenly changed a little bit. Feeling carefully, I found that the Pluto Saint cloth was shaking slightly, as if the gate of hell in front of him and the Pluto Saint clothes were communicating silently. It didn't take long for Lei Luo's robe of Hades to calm down, and then a trace of black aura penetrated into the gate of hell from the robe of Hades. The next moment, the gate of hell that had been closed gradually cracked into another slit. Really? Okay. Lei Luo was overjoyed, took 2 steps forward, raised his hand to push the gate of hell. There was a soft creak sound, and a bright light overflowed from the door, instantly wrapping Lei Luo, who was standing in front of the door. He actually opened the gates of hell. In the distance, Yuhi Lian and the others were startled and wanted to step forward, but they dared not move even half a step. Master. Ruawaruaowu's voice came from the gate of hell, like an old servant who had never seen his master quietly calling his master. In the light, Lei Luo knew that his thoughts were solid, and the Pluto robes he wore became even more extraordinary in this light, and even gave him a sense of blood connection. Master, the gates of hell are always open for you. Ruawaruaowu's voice continued to sound, reaching the bottom of Lei Luo's heart through Pluto's holy clothes. With a thought, Lei Luo ordered the gate of hell to reopen the passage leading to the bottom of hell, but after waiting for a long time, there was no change in the gate of hell and the gate of hell, and the soft white light still overflowed from the door. Master, I can't let you enter the bottom of hell, because there is a field barrier set up by the Spirit King. If you fall into it, you will disappear into this world again. The voice of the gate of hell resounded in Lei Luo's heart, explaining why the lowest channel of hell was not open for Lei Luo. However, Lei Luo didn't care whether Hades disappeared or not, so he still ordered the gate of hell to open the channel in his heart. Yes, Master. The sound of the gate of hell sounded, and then countless chains of hell gushed out from the white light, and the white light also turned bloody Yuhi in an instant. If you are prepared, you will inevitably be taken half a step back by the sudden hot breath. After standing firm, Lei Luo saw countless ghosts suffering different punishments in various areas at the bottom of hell through the layers of Yuhi's heat. Among them, the area that attracts Lei Luo's attention the most is the area closest to where Lei Luo is located, where the Yuhi lotus fire is burning on the ground, the pitch-black thunder Jinchuriki column keeps falling from the sky, and all kinds of auras in all directions will turn into various forms. The weapons kept attacking the culprits in this area, causing all the culprits in it to cry loudly. But there is one exception. The man stood in the sea of fire, facing the jet-black thunder Jinchuriki column falling from the sky without any fear, and even took the initiative to collide with the thunder Jinchuriki column falling from the sky. And even at the moment of touching the thunder Jinchuriki column, that person will even remove the spiritual power from his body and use only his body and soul to forcefully receive the baptism of the lightning Jinchuriki column. Often, after the lightning strike, his body will be torn apart by the blast. However, as a person to blame, as long as the mind does not collapse and the soul can still condense, it will not really die. Therefore, after each smash, the person will return to human form in a very short time, laugh wildly, and then face the blade formed by spiritual power. Continue to look for new Rei Jinchuriki column. Purple Thunder. Lei Luo whispered the name of the figure. It was Zilei who was pulled into the bottom of hell by the gate of hell. Surely a crazy man. Lei Luo's impression of Zilei deepened a lot. Even though Lei Luo has experienced 2 worlds, he has never seen such a crazy person. The scene in hell could not frighten Lei Luo, and those chains who rushed out of the gate of hell did not dare to approach Lei Luo. Step by step, Lei Luo slowly walked into the gate of hell. At this moment, dozens of hell intents appeared around and rushed over like crazy. This time, they no longer cared about those white stone Jinchuriki column, and the speed was countless times happier than before. In the blink of an eye, 7 or 8 meanings of hell have surrounded the gate of hell in the center, and a pair of iron fists clenched tightly, smashing Lei Luo, who was half-length into the gate of hell. But they were a little late after all. The gate of hell had disappeared before their fists hit, and in the sky of hell, the terrifying spiritual pressure suddenly appeared after the gate of hell disappeared, killing Yuhi Lian and others who were not far away. Pressed directly to the ground. The cloth of Hades reappears. Is the war about to start again? The Reiatsu in the air quickly disappeared, leaving only a sentence that puzzled Yuhiren and the others. At this time, Lei Luo had already entered the gate of hell. In the scorching hot breath that kept coming in, he moved forward step by step, but found that no matter how fast he accelerated, he couldn't get close to the bottom of hell. What's the matter? Lei Luo asked about the gate of hell in his heart. Master, this is the enchantment of God's domain set up by the Spirit King, and it is for all creatures except the blamer, especially you. Spirit King, the creator of Jingling Court in the anime of death, has the power beyond death, true God. It is the only officially recognized God in the world of death. What does the Spirit King have to do with hell? Why is there a God realm barrier set up by the Spirit King at the bottom of hell? Chapter 362-Void, Blame and Death. What does the Spirit King have to do with hell? Why is there a God realm barrier set up by the Spirit King at the bottom of hell? Lei Luo was confused. He had an impression of the Spirit King. Although it did not appear in the animation of the God of Death, in the God of Death comics, there is a chapter of the Spirit King in the Millennium Blood War chapter, and the entire length of the Millennium Blood War chapter also revolves around the Spirit King, the true God, expanded. It's just that in the comics, the Spirit King is a puppet-like existence with no limbs. He is placed in the Spirit King Palace like a living dead, guarded by the 4 most powerful gods of death. However, in Lei Luo's view, the 4 strongest gods of death may not only be guardian Spirit Kings, but also have the meaning of guarding and detaining them. I won't delve into these for now. Anyway, Lei Luo is in the world of death, and sooner or later, he will have the opportunity to clarify these questions. At this stage, what Lei Luo is most interested in and wants to know is why there is a God's realm barrier set up by the Spirit King in hell. As for Lei Luo's question, Hell's Gate knew more or less, so after Lei Luo asked the question, the Hell's Gate's voice sounded again. Master, in fact, the Spirit King, like you, has evolved from the void, and the Spirit King, like you, is an existence that surpasses the vast road, superior, great void. From the narration of the meaning of hell, Lei Luo found that his worldview of death animation seems to be collapsing little by little. Void is a kind of evil spirit body formed after human beings turn into undead after death, and because they are obsessed with something in the world, their mind gradually disappears, and finally the chain in the chest disappears and turns into a black hole. This kind of spiritual body, from the initial change of mind and mind, to the final change in the body, grows a mask and incarnates into a void. And once the mask is created, its behavior is not completely controlled by the original owner's consciousness, and the attack consciousness will be amplified. And in order to fill the vacancy in his heart, he will prey on the person he loves the most. When he completes this stage, he will become an emotionless real emptiness. The ability to become a true phantom is completely determined by the original owner's inner character, or subconscious, but if it can pass the initial infancy, the strength of the late phantom will be determined by the amount of other phantoms it eats. This way of improving strength determines that the virtual existence is to keep killing each other, and it will not stop until the evolution is complete. In the animation, the level of the virtual, from the lowest virtual, to the big virtual, is divided into 2 levels. But Daxu can be divided into Jillian, the most common level, lower level, Ajukas, intermediate level, and Vastrode, upper level, because of the different abilities. These 3 big virtual forms have been reflected in the animation, and the broken face is also a Vastodian level big virtual, but its ability and form have evolved and improved due to the collapse of Jade. Whether there are still higher level virtuals above the Vastord level phantoms, this question may have been a mystery to those who love death anime. But from the Gate of Hell, Lei Luo finally found the answer to this matter. The answer to this matter, of course, is. And this kind of virtual also appeared in the anime. According to the Gate of Hell, there are 3 levels above the Vastod level Daxu, Scriabinto, Advanced, Wangshu, Dominions, and Senksu, Ophanum. However, since the concept of the virtual circle, the entire virtual circle has only evolved 1 Wangshu, and before counting Eternal, this Wangshu has disappeared. Under Wangshu, there are 2 Scredo level Daxu, one of which is the King of Spirits who created Jingling Court, and the other is the King of Pluto who rules Hell. These 2 Scredo level Daxu, originally under Wangshu's rule, they could live together peacefully, because even if they devoured each other, they would not evolve to Wangshu's realm. But after Wangxing disappeared for no reason, friction between these 2 big Xings came into being. As Xings that evolved by devouring, even if their reason had been awakened, their instinctive desire to swallow was hard to restrain. And in the face of the temptation to rule the entire virtual circle, even a Scredo-class big virtual is hard to resist. With the acquiescence of both sides, the Daxu who followed them began to clash constantly, which finally turned into a war between the 2 camps. Death God and Guiran originally had a unified name in the era when Wangshu ruled the virtual circle, and they also admitted that they were the same existence, but after the outbreak of the war between the Spirit King and Hades, both sides redefined their identities for themselves. Originally, the war between the 2 sides was only between the virtual circle and the big virtual, but the treacherous and cunning Spirit King followed the advice of his subordinates, let the humanoid enter the human world, and hypocritically rescued those who were harassed by ordinary virtual harassment. A bewildered human soul. Afterwards, the use of spiritual power was handed over to those human souls who were not virtualized, and they were trained to become death gods, and they used their own spiritual power to establish a jingling court, so that these human souls could live in it and prevent them from being affected. The effect of the virtual circle is blurred. Perhaps the form of human beings is the most suitable for displaying spiritual power. These human undeads in the jingling court have entered the realm of cultivation very quickly, and even far exceeded the expectations of those who proposed to train human undead as combat power. This discovery has also led to a large number of Vastord-class great virtuals wanting to transform into human forms. This is the first opportunity for the broken face to appear, and we will not talk about it here for the time being. On the Pluto side, although they quickly discovered the Spirit King's plan, it was too late to follow suit. In the end, the human undead organization named Death God's 13th Division intervened in the war between the Spirit King and Pluto, and because the Death God had a large number of Wastord-level combat power, it directly led to the death of Pluto. One side's defeat. Although Pluto himself finally tried his best to kill the Spirit King, he was unsuccessful in the end, but at the cost of his own disappearance, Hades still shattered the Spirit King himself and fell into eternal sleep. Afterwards, the Pluto faction, the defeated party, ended up being sealed in hell, unable to escape for eternity, and in order to punish those who follow Pluto, the bottom layer of hell was built as a place to torture and blame people. And those human souls whose beliefs are different from those of the god of death or who are not accepted by the god of death, after they enter the jingling court, their memory will be erased by the god of death, and they will be imprisoned in hell through special methods, and will be tortured forever until their souls become the purest. The power of. In fact, transforming the bottom layer of hell is not only for torturing the blame, its real purpose is to restore spiritual power to the severely injured Spirit King after the war. Those souls who were tortured to death at the bottom of hell, the purest spiritual power they transformed into will enter the Spirit King's body because of the enchantment of the god's domain, so that the Spirit King will gradually restore the full strength of the Scredo-level Daxu. Chapter 363 _ the present. There was a wave in the void, and the gate of hell carved with the evil ghost Shira appeared over a city, attracting the attention of several gods of death patrolling here. At the same time, Lei Luo stepped out and came to the present world of the world of death. Due to the seal of the gods set at the bottom of hell by the Spirit King, Lei Luo was forced to retreat and enter the world of the god of death first to find the key props to go to the palace of the Spirit King to kill the Spirit King. Kangza Town, the city where the protagonist lives in the Shinigami anime, is also the place where the Shinigami storyline begins, and it is also a key prop to the Lingwang Palace, a necessary place for the birth of Wang Jian. When the gate of hell retreated and disappeared, Lei Luo slowly landed from the air, and before he could stand firm, the sound of the system sounded in Lei Luo's heart. Ding! Detect the figure of the Death Patrol, activate the mission, kill the god first. First kill god, kill the Shinigami patrolling in Kuza Town, the mission is completed, and you will get a god-level lottery point *1. Hearing the sound of the system, Lei Luo did not hesitate, the Pluto robe quickly disappeared, and then his body turned into a golden light, swept toward the city at a speed that was indistinguishable to the naked eye. Boom! While Lei Luo was flying through the city, near the edge of the city, 3 patrolling death gods were fighting a virtual ghost with a hole in its chest. This virtual did not enter the ranks of the Great Virtual, but the size is not comparable to the General Virtual, and the strength is not inferior to the siege of the 3 gods of death. Damn it! Isn't there a weaker Kuzu in Kuzako? A Grim Reaper roared at his companions during the battle. Since he was transferred to patrol Kakuza Town, none of the Ku he encountered could be killed alone. Come on, Kakuza-cho is not an ordinary place. Being able to be transferred to patrol here is the captain's training for you, and it is also a recognition of your strength. Another god of death waved Zanpakuto in his hand, and a blade formed by Reiatsu shot out, forcing Shu, who was about to rush in front of him, to retreat, and then jumped to the side of his companion, holding knives in both hands, looking at the person in front of him alertly. Virtual. I'd rather be relaxed and unrestrained in other cities, and I don't want to be valued by the captain. When I transfer here, I often risk death to clean up. The god of death who had spoken before continued to complain, but he did not hesitate to shoot, and saw him put away Zanpakuto, swiping his hands on his chest, and following his movements, many bright spots began to converge on his chest, and finally on his chest. The right finger turned into a white shockwave and shot towards the roaring void in the distance. Broken road. Boom. The white impact broke the white mask in the middle, and in the roar of the virtual, the white mask cracked a gap. Destruction. The offensive skills of the Ghost Department, the higher the level, the greater the attack power and difficulty. For a broken Dao of this level, as long as it is a god of death, it will definitely be the Master's broken Dao. Although the level of this Dao breaking is not high, it is very useful to deal with ordinary emptiness, and because its level is very low, it consumes not much of its own spiritual power, so it is often used by low-level death gods as the main means of long-range attacking emptiness, and the effect is remarkably PFF'd. After the white impact was broken, a member of the Shinigami who had not shot before quickly approached Shu's back, and Zanpakuto in his hand fell from the top, splitting the pain and roaring shoe from top to bottom, splitting it in half. In front of the disappearing virtual, the three patrolling death gods put away Zanpakuto and looked into the distance at the same time. What happened to that spiritual pressure just now? I don't know, but I can't feel that spiritual pressure now. Go and see. The three gods of death were about to leave after a simple exchange, but suddenly saw a burst of golden light rushing from a distance. Before the three could react, the golden light dissipated, and a young man who looked like a human stood in front of the three. With a harmonious smile on his face. Kwasi Master. Seeing that the other party was a human youth, the three patrolling death gods were stunned for a moment, then pointed at Lei Luo with knives. They are not newbies, and among humans, the only ones who can use spiritual power to attack and are hostile to the god of death seem to be the Quincy. However, after the bloody battle thousands of years ago, Quincy has always been very low-key in reality. This kind of open and upright sudden appearance in front of the death god seems to be the first time in history. In this situation, if this, Kwasi Master, was not stunned, he must be self-sufficient and wanted to provoke the war between death and Quincy again. Lei Luo didn't know what the gods of death were thinking at this moment, he just came over to complete the task given by the system. When the god of death was waiting, Lei Luo raised his right hand, and the fingertips shone with golden light. The next moment, the golden light shot out, piercing a patrolling god of death close to him on the spot. At the same time as it fell, the body of the god of death made a move to the side due to inertia. Seeing this, the other two patrol death gods changed their faces. This attack speed. While thinking, one of the patrolling Shinigami began to release Reiatsu with all his strength, and Zanpakuto, who was holding it in his hand, seemed to have a sense of it, and his form gradually changed. Yo, it turns out to be a Shinigami who understands Shikai. Although Lei Luo wasn't sure about the change in Zanpakuto in the hands of the patrolling death god, his guess was pretty close. Even the god of death did not expect that when he was in danger of his life, he suddenly realized the Shikai of Zanpakuto. Before he could get acquainted with his own Zanpakuto's Shikai ability, the god of death had already launched an attack on Lei Luo. I saw a trace of cold air emerge from the blade of the patrolling death god, which lowered the temperature of the surrounding air by a few points. With a wave of it, an ice pick shot out from the blade and shot towards Lei Luo. As the ice-type Zanpakuto. Facing the icicle, Lei Luo didn't even want to dodge and let the icicle penetrate his body. How is it possible? The patrol death god who had awakened Shikai looked at the hole in Lei Luo's chest with puzzled eyes. If the ice pick was easily dodged by Lei Luo, he would not be surprised at all, but now, his attack has directly penetrated the opponent's body, and the opponent is still unscathed. This situation has far exceeded him. Of knowledge. In the eyes of this god of death, the hole in Lei Luo's chest healed, and his fingertips shone with golden light again. There are more than 3 death gods patrolling the city of Kuza town, so after Lei Luo solved the previous 3 patrolling death gods, the task assigned by the system was not completed, but Lei Luo does not need a lottery now, so it is temporarily abandoned patrolling the entire city in search of Reaper. The most important thing now is to find out what time is it. After killing 3 patrolling death gods earlier, Lei Luo forgot to inquire about the current situation in the world of death gods in a hurry. This has to be said to be a minor mistake. Chapter 364-Mr. Fox, Kazuki Urahara. From the edge of the city to the center of the city, Lei Luo wandered around aimlessly. Although he occasionally saw patrolling death gods passing by in the air, Lei Luo did not do anything to those patrolling death gods in order not to disturb someone. Just when Lei Luo turned to a secluded alley, a man wearing a green and white fisherman hat, dark green short jacket and light green trousers, clogs, and a little stubble on his chin came out of a shop. Behind him, followed by a tall, old man with reflective glasses, wearing white short sleeves with a kabuto, and a mustache. The two walked towards Lei Luo one after the other, and glanced at Lei Luo sideways. Lei Luo smiled in his heart, this is the person he was looking for. Urahara Kazuki and Garashi Tetsusai, two great men who defected from the Jingling court where the Shinigami is located. Among them, Urahara Kazuki was originally the captain of the 12th Division of the 13th Division of the Gotei, and he was also the founder of the Jinglingtei Technology Development Bureau. Many items in the Jinglingtei were created and made by him, such as Yoshimukuro, Lanbo pills, etc. And behind him, Guling Tejai, is the former commander-in-chief of the Ghost Dao congregation, the Great Ghost Dao Chief, with super strength, capable of releasing super high-level Ghost Dao, such as Ghost Dao 99 and some banned books that are still in time. These two people all have strengths that surpass the ordinary captains of the 13th Division of the Death God. Even if they are the captains of the top-ranked divisions in spiritual power, these two can't help but fight. While watching silently, the three walked towards each other, but when they were about to pass each other, they tacitly stopped. "Friend, don't you want to explain why you killed the patrol death?" Urahara Kazuki looked sideways at Lei Luo, and from the look under his hat, it could be seen that if Lei Luo couldn't give him a satisfactory answer, a battle would immediately break out between the three. "They want to shoot at me, I'm just protecting myself." Lei Luo stared at Urahara Kazuki's eyes without fear, and a little golden light slowly overflowed from his body. "They take me as a Quincy. You know, the Quincy and the God of Death are deadly enemies. If the God of Death finds a Quincy, it must be eliminated. But you should have seen my ability, I am not a Quincy." Urahara Kazuki looked Lei Luo up and down, his brows that were covered by the brim of his hat twitched slightly. From the spiritual power fluctuations on Lei Luo, he could be sure that he was not a Quincy, and he did not detect Daxu's spiritual power from Lei Luo. Fluctuations, so it means that Lei Luo is not a face-to-face phantom that was mixed in with the world. With Urahara's erudition, he couldn't even guess Lei Luo's ability at all. This phenomenon made Urahara Kazuki, who has a lot of wisdom, developed a strong interest in studying Lei Luo's ability. And what Lei Luo said is indeed true. Death and Quincy are deadly enemies. Death-killing Quincy and Quincy-killing God can be regarded as normal situations. For a while, Urahara Kazuki couldn't refute Lei Luo's answer. After a short silence, Urahara Kazuki returned to his lazy appearance, and continued to walk forward with the cane in his hand on his forearm. "No matter what, you still killed 3 patrolling gods of death. If old man Yamamoto finds out about this, I am afraid that even if you are not a Quincy master, you will not escape the fate of being arrested by the gods of death. That old man still cherishes his opponents." Quote. Without waiting for Urahara Kazuki to go far, Lei Luo had already caught up. How could someone who had finally found him slip away easily? "It seems that Sir knows the god of death very well, so what do you think I should do?" Although this defeated Death God is no longer a member of the Death God squad, he still wants to protect the Jingling Court and the Spirit King, so Lei Luo is now getting information from him, so he can't reveal himself and death for the time being. Not all the way attitude. "This is simple, as long as you buy a few things in my store, I will help you to clear up the death squad and make sure they don't come to catch you." Tetsusai, who was behind Urahara Kazuki, had an "I know it" expression on his face. And this incident obviously exceeded Lei Luo's expectations. Although his strength is good, he has no Japanese yen on him. That Lei Luo was about to speak, Urahara Kazuki had already turned his head and looked over. "Don't worry, the items in my store are very cheap. And they are very practical, so you can buy with confidence and use them comfortably." Urahara Kazuki's expression is that you can't buy it, you can't be fooled. If you let people who haven't seen the god of death see the appearance of the store manager, I'm afraid they will be deceived by his appearance at the time, so it's not practical to buy those. Urahara store exclusively for merchandise. "That, Mr. Store Manager, it's not that I don't want to buy it, it's just that I don't have any money." Lei Luo turned over the pockets of his clothes, showing that he was penniless, with practical actions. Urahara Kazuki had a helpless expression on his face, and even under this expression, Lei Luo could see a hint of schadenfreude. Oh, then there's nothing you can do. You should still wait for a large number of death gods to catch you. Maybe old man Yamamoto will send 17 or 8 death god captains when he is happy. You know, the 3 patrolling death gods you killed before are not even ants in front of Captain Death God. Tisk tisk tisk. Boy, your death is probably not far away. Hearing Urahara Kazuki's words, Lei Luo's forehead immediately hung a black line. 17 or 8 captains of Reaper. If it is said that there are 17 or 8 people who know Bankai in the 13th division of Reaper, this is true, but Reaper's team there are only 13 teams, how can there be 17 or 8 death god captains? But Lei Luo couldn't show his understanding of the death squad, so he could only pretend he didn't know. Then what? I don't want to die. Lei Luo took Urahara Kazuki's words and said, but the expression on his face did not show much panic. Or else, I will work for you in your shop for free, as long as you help me talk to the gods of death and let them not come and arrest me. Good. Kazuki Urahara raised his eyes and looked at Lei Luo. The moment their eyes met, they both seemed to understand what the other was thinking, and immediately laughed tacitly. My name is Lei Luo, and I will be taken care of by the manager of Domung in the future. It's easy to talk about it, it will be my own family in the future. But it's okay, you are a free laborer in my shop, I only need to eat and live, and you have to find a solution for other needs. The two sides hit it off and all achieved the results they wanted. If Lei Luo hopes to use Urahara Kazuki to understand the current timeline of the world of death and get closer to Benyu as soon as possible, then Urahara Kazuki kept Lei Luo by his side to monitor and observe Lei Luo, a person of unknown ability who suddenly appeared in Kakuzucho during the current sensitive period. It is said that they have to be carefully checked. If the other party has any deviant behavior, Urahara Kazuki will be able to kill it before the situation deteriorates. Chapter 365 Benkai _ In Urahara Kazuki's grocery store, Lei Luo was assigned to help Warei Tetsusai tidy up the store warehouse. Even though the appearance is just such a small wooden house, in fact, the interior has been transformed into a special space by Urahara Kazuki. Otherwise, how can we put aside the various inventions and creations of Urahara Kazuki for nearly 100 years? It would be bragging to say that Lei Luo has no yearning for the small cabin in front of him. This place is like the Uncle Snake laboratory in the Hokage world, which is full of the most cutting-edge technology products in the world of death. What kind of soul pills, Reiatsu isolation mukuro, portable mukuro, invisibility cloth, black cloak, turning body, etc., are all stored in this small warehouse. However, after Lei Luo entered the warehouse, his mood could only be described with 2 words that would be harmonious. In such a mess, Mr. Taijai, how did you take care of the warehouse in the past 100 years? Lei Luo looked helplessly at Huling Taijai who was leading the way in front of him. I'm not very good at packing things. In the past, there was a special person in charge of my daily life in Jingling Court. Holding Ling Taijai's right hand and scratching his head, he seemed embarrassed, but in fact that action was just a habit of his. You have been cleaning up for nearly 100 years. Even a pig should learn to clean up. Lei Luo thought so, he didn't say it. It's no wonder that Sumuuyu will take Yoshimura by mistake. In such a messy warehouse, I'm afraid Urahara Kazuki will be difficult to ensure that there is no error 100%. I stayed in the Urahara store for several days. Every day, except for cleaning up, I could never do the same rough work as Tizai, and Urahara Kazuki seemed to have forgotten the existence of Lei Luo. Except for meal time, I usually didn't even do it. We'll look at Lei Luo more. During this period, Lei Luo was not without benefits. Taking advantage of the time he usually packs in the warehouse, Lei Luo would always accidentally put some small things into his pockets. Especially the turning body, Lei Luo discovered this thing inadvertently, and then took it for himself without a trace. After cleaning up the warehouse, Lei Luo successfully mastered Bankai, the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto Hirenmaru in less than 2 days with the help of the god-turning body. For a while, the warehouse was full of ice and snow, and the temperature was almost approaching. Absolute freezing. Since Lei Luo is very strong, his body can fully withstand higher Inmaru's real Bankai power, so that the Bankai she has learned is directly higher Inmaru's strongest form. Although his body is not deformed like Xiaobai in the anime, the spiritual pressure on his body has skyrocketed, so much so that it alarmed all the patrolling Shinigami in Kakuza town. Kazuki Urahara and Tetsusai, who were resting and chatting in the store, were no exception. When the two rushed into the wooden warehouse, what they saw in front of them was a microcosm of a world of ice and snow. All the inventory was completely buried. The snow was as hard as steel, and the biting chill forced the two of them to have luck to wrap their bodies around. In the snow as hard as steel, Lei Luo himself is floating in the air, holding a lustrous white zanpakuto in his hand. Similar to the shape of a faucet, there are even two white gems that sparkle with white light on both sides of the knife tail. Ice zanpakuto. Urahara Kazuki and Goroshi Tetsusai looked at each other, both seeing surprise in each other's eyes. How well do these two know about Zanpakuto, the god of death? Among the ice Zanpakuto they know, Higher Inmaru is known as the strongest ice Zanpakuto in history, and its Bankai ability has never really been shown to the world, so no one knows Higher Inmaru is really Bankai, the latter form and ability limit. But just Shikai and the incomplete Bankai, the increase of the master's spiritual pressure and the effect of fighting against the enemy, have exceeded the strength limit of ordinary captain-level death gods. This is also the fundamental reason why Jing Lingting asserts that Higher Inmaru is the strongest Zanpakuto of the ice type. Urahara Kazuki and Ritsusai have always deeply agreed with this decision, and believe that Higher Inmaru is undisputed as the strongest Zanpakuto in the ice system. However, seeing the Bankai power of the ice-type Zanpakuto in Lei Luo's hands, the two became suspicious of the views they once agreed with. If you only judge the effect of the blade's spiritual pressure and energy on the surrounding temperature, the Zanpakuto in Lei Luo's hands is definitely not under Higher Inmaru. Even according to the shocking inference of the two, the Higher Inmaru held by Hitsugaya Toshiro, even if the real Bankai, may not be able to reach the Reiki of Zanpakuto in Lei Luo's hands. Zanpakuto is not only a tool to increase the master's spiritual pressure, but also under the constant installation of the master's spiritual pressure, Zanpakuto itself will become stronger and stronger. For example, Zanpakuto Ryujin Jaka, the strongest fire element, if he is held in the hands of a patrol death god, even if he will not disgrace Ryujin Jaka's prestige, but if he wants to grow into the strongest fire element Zanpakuto, then the hope is probably very slim. Zanpakuto's ranking is closely related to the owner's Reiatsu and talent. The same Zanpakuto, in the hands of two different people, can have completely different strengths. The same as the strongest Zanpakuto in the ice system, Hitsugaya Toshiro can Bankai, but Kusanagi Sojiro did not understand Bankai until his death. Even after awakening the power of weakness in his body, Sojiro Kusanagi still lost to Xiaobai, and was easily killed by Xiaobai, who was not completely Bankai. Is the name of the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto going to change hands? This is the common voice of Urahara Kazuki and Ryogiri Tetsusai. At the same time, above Kakuza town, the originally clear sky suddenly swayed a little, and then the blue sky cracked a gap, which instantly grew into a pitch-black void. 6 figures in white robes emerged from the pitch-black void. They came out one after another, and there was a white mask on their face. Grimjow, Ichigo Kurisaki's Reiatsu has been locked, shall we go now? At the moment of appearing in this world, these people also noticed the captain-level Reiatsu who was venting recklessly in Kakuza town, and the place where Kurosaki Ichigo was located was very close to the location of that Reiatsu, so a left-eyed and the broken face covered by the mask on the top of the head has this question. Having a captain-level Shinigami beside Kurosaki Ichigo was not a big or small obstacle to their plan to kill Kurosaki Ichigo. Takashi, before I kill Kurosaki Ichigo, that Captain Death will be handed over to you. The 60th Blade Grimjow instructed the subordinates behind him, and then lifted his feet and disappeared into the air. The 5 Rumian standing behind him did not hesitate, and then swept towards Kurosaki Ichigo's Reiatsu position. In another place above Kakuza-cho, two other figures came out of the void. Captain, this spiritual pressure seems to be an ice-type Zanpakuto. A blonde-haired, hot-looking beauty looked at Kakuzu-cho at her feet, frowning slightly at a boy standing in front of her. Similar to Higher Inmaru's Reiatsu, but more terrifying than Higher Inmaru's Reiatsu, what the hell is going on? The boy is white, wearing a black kimono, with a white jacket on the outside, with the words, 10th Division, written in jet black on the back. Hitsugaya Tushiro, one of the 13th Division of the Shinigami Godei, the captain of the 10th Division, the holder of the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto Higher Inmaru, suddenly came to this world at this time, and the men who have been monitoring the town of Kakuza have reported the appearance of a captain in Kakuzamaki. After the Reiatsu incident, the captain who rushed to Kakuza town as soon as possible. Chapter 366_Broken Face, Acting Grim Reaper, Captain Grim Reaper. Grimjow's speed is not unpleasant. In the flash of light and flint, he has come to a place not far from the Urahara store. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo has swallowed the soul pill, and incarnated into the air as an agent of death. Broken face. Kurosaki Ichigo's face was full of anger. The fact that Inoue Oriheim was taken away by Ulquiorra had become his heart disease. If it wasn't for the death god's strict order not to allow him to enter the virtual circle, I'm afraid he would have risked his own life to break through. Enter the virtual circle to save the well. Now seeing the broken face come to the world, Kurosaki Ichigo can no longer keep his sanity, so he directly opens Bankai and entangles with Grimjow. However, the current Kurosaki Ichigo does not have the ability to become a master, so facing Grimjow, he was knocked to the ground in just a moment, and he struggled for a long time before he got up from the ground. Deputy Death, you have so little strength, I really don't know why Orchiola didn't kill you before. He won't do it, let me do it. Let's just say, Grimjow stretched his right hand straight forward, and the spirits continued to gather in his hand, condensing into the unique attacking skill of Daxu, the virtual flash. Kurosaki Ichigo knew that he couldn't dodge, otherwise the innocent people around him would definitely be affected, and he started to condense the Reiatsu in his body with his sword in front of him. Moon Kiba Sky Rushes. Boom. Cough cough cough. The two powerful spiritual pressures collided in the air, and the spirits vented wildly. In order to protect the surrounding civilians, Kurosaki Ichigo moved at a high speed again, trying to block all the vented spirits in this battle area. However, Grimjow didn't give him this chance, and another phantom flash had formed, and on the way of Kurosaki Ichigo flying, it hit Kurosaki Ichigo's chest. With a forced flick, Ichigo Kurosaki's body was not lightly injured, and at the same time, half of the Death Tyrant outfit after Benkai's transformation was damaged. Kurosaki Ichigo's Deathlord outfit is slightly different from other death gods. His Deathlord outfit is also part of his Benkai. The integrity of his Deathlord outfit is closely related to the saturation of his spiritual power. When Kurosaki Ichigo was injured and slowed down, Grimjow, who was in the distance, disappeared again. After Shunpo, he appeared directly beside Kurosaki Ichigo. He grabbed his right hand and pulled it towards Kurosaki Ichigo's chest. I want to take out Ichigo Kurosaki's heart and kill him. Sit on Frost, Higher Inmaru. The ice dragon spins its tail. A low shout came from the air, and then a sheet of ice Jinchuriki column spread from the air to Grimjow's back. Death, your opponents are us. Crack. A sound of ice Jinchuriki column shattering sounded, and the ice Jinchuriki column formed by Hitsugaya Toshiro's attack shattered, and 5 broken faces appeared behind Grimjow, blocking Hitsugaya Toshiro's attack for him. And Grimjow had long imagined that this would be the result, so the action of digging towards Kurosaki Ichigo did not stop at all. But what he didn't expect was that a figure appeared beside him, and then a Yuhi-colored light flashed, forcibly forcing him back to the side. However, although Grimjow was forced to retreat, his attack was not without effect. In his right hand, a large piece of flesh was dripping with blood. Who are you? Why meddle in our affairs with death? Grimjow stood by and looked at the person who rescued Kurosaki Ichigo. The person who came was Kazuki Urahara. After he found out that there was a broken face breaking into the world, he gave up watching Leiluo and rushed over for the first time, which saved Ichigo Kurosaki at the critical moment. I am the owner of a grocery store. Originally, it is not my business to fight and kill you, but this person is a regular customer of my store. If he dies, then the sales of my store will decrease a lot. Urahara Kazuki still spoke casually, but the look in his eyes became serious. The face-breaking Daxu is no longer an existence that he can easily kill. If that's the case, then I'll kill you together. Grimjow put Kabuto's hands in his hands, showing a grim face. His tone did not fluctuate at all, as if he was saying something very ordinary. Oh, if you have the ability. Urahara Kazuki didn't care either, and signaled that his opponent could start at any time. As soon as he finished speaking, Grimjow had disappeared, and at the same time, Urahara Kazuki stepped back quickly, and led Ichigo Kurosaki behind him. Boom! There was a loud noise, and a big pit had appeared where the two stood before. At the bottom of the pit, Grimjow was pulling his fist out of the ground. You still have some strength. The black phantom flashes were activated again, and two at a time, one after the other, rushing towards Urahara Kazuki and Kurosaki Ichigo who were flying back. Cry, Yuhi Haim. Urahara Kazuki held a cane in his left hand and drank it lightly, and then the front end of the cane shattered into a Zanpakuto that was shorter than a normal Zanpakuto. The Shield of Shuexia. As Urahara Kazuki drank again, the Zanpakuto blade in his left hand began to release a large amount of Reiatsu, forming a shield of blood Yuhi in front of him and Kurosaki, blocking the two phantom flashes that hit him at the same time. Down. At the same time as the phantom flash disappeared, the Yuhi-colored shield shattered and turned into countless Yuhi-colored arrows that shot back at Grimjow, but this attack was easily dodged by Grimjow. Who the hell are you? You can defend against my phantom with just your Reiatsu shield. It was only now that Grimjow realized that the sloppy middle-aged man in front of him was not simple. If he wasn't super strong, how could he be so easily able to defend against the fictitious dodge used by the broken face? I'm really a store owner. Gee, the Urahara store not far away is my store. There are many good things in it. You can come around whenever you have time. See, we are acquaintances. I can give you 8% discount. Quote. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo was already awake, and although the blood hole in his chest looked very miserable, it was not enough to kill him. Now that his stamina has recovered a little, Ichigo Kurosaki shook off the hand that Kazuki Urahara was holding onto him, threw Zanpakuto, and rushed towards Grimjow again. What do you guys want to do by taking Inoue-san to the virtual circle? Moon Kiba Sky rushes. The roar can obviously increase Kurosaki Ichigo's spiritual pressure, and this slash is obviously much more powerful than the previous one. Grimjow also felt the terrifying power in the darkness of the sword light, although his face was disdainful, but his hands were not idle. At the moment when the jet black sword light approached, his right hand had already pulled out the Zanpakuto-like weapon around his waist. Boom! The jet black sword light collided with Grimjow's blade, and the huge spiritual pressure met and collided, suppressing Grimjow for a while. Ah! Grimjow opened his mouth and shouted. His spiritual pressure kept rising, and he actually took over Ichigo Kurosaki's anger full of Kiba Tianchong. But before he could be complacent, the other 5 broken faces who had been following him around in the virtual circle were all screaming in pain. Chapter 367 Return to the Edge. When Grimjow turned his head to look behind him, he found that all 5 of his subordinates were injured and fell to the ground. If that's the case, then Grimjow wouldn't feel shocked, but when he saw the state of his subordinates, the shock in Grimjow's heart could not be described in words. You used the return blade, but you were still defeated in such a short period of time. Opposite these broken-faced subordinates, Hitsugaya Toshiro, who was already Bankai, was turning his head to look at Grimjow, and behind him was Matsumoto Renki holding an arm. It turned out that when Grimjow was chasing Ichigo Kurosaki and fighting with Kazuki Urahara, the 5 subordinate officers of the Broken Face had returned to the blade and released all the Reiatsu of their Vastord class Daxu. In the face of the death god of captain level, these broken-faced subordinate officials dare not take care of themselves, so when they get started, they do their best. In the state of returning to the blade, their spiritual pressure was nearly 10 times higher than when they appeared, and with a 5-to-1 ratio, they were almost rubbing against Hitsugaya Toshiro on the ground. As the captain of the Shinigami, Hitsugaya Toshiro is naturally sensitive to Reiatsu, and at the first time when the 5 broke the face and returned to the blade, he also clearly understood that he could not defeat the opponent in Shikai state, so he wanted to use Bankai early. But his Bankai is different from other Reaper captains. Other Reaper captains are instant Bankai, only him, because his body can't bear higher Inmaru's complete Bankai, so every time he casts an incomplete Bankai, he has to have a little time to let his body collaborate with Zanpakuto. But the current situation is that he has to fight against 5 with 1, so his Bankai can't be completed smoothly, which directly leads him to face the constant attacks of 5 subordinate officers in Shikai state. Seeing this situation, the vice captain of the 10th Division who came to the world with Hitsugaya Toshiro, Matsumoto Renki immediately joined the battle circle. Although her combat effectiveness is not strong, the Grey Cat after Shikai is very suitable for team battles, especially with the higher Inmaru special effects of Hitsugaya Toshiro. Layers of sand tornadoes cooperated with Hitsugaya Toshiro's various ranged attacks, and even suppressed the attacking momentum of the 5 subordinate officers, and the battle between the two sides was rarely balanced. However, after seeing Kurosaki Ichigo injured, Matsumoto Renki and Hitsugaya Toshiro were all anxious. In addition, they didn't know much about Urahara Kazuki, so they were very worried that Kurosaki Ichigo would die in that super-shattering hands. Especially Matsumoto Ranju, it is difficult for him to face the 5 subordinates with his own strength. At this time, his mentality is unstable, and there is a mistake in the attack, and he is directly knocked down from the air by a subordinate. Losing the restraint of Matsumoto Ranju, Hitsugaya Toshiro once again fell into a situation of 1 enemy and 5. However, at the last moment when Matsumoto Ranju was sent flying, he directed the Grey Cat to create a gap for Hitsugaya Toshiro and let him succeed. Used Bankai. With the appearance of 4 ice flowers behind him, Hitsugaya Toshiro's right hand holding the knife was covered with ice, and behind it, a pair of ice wings were formed, and at the end of the ice wings, there was also a piece of ice Jinchuriki column condensed. Dragon Tail. Bankai, Hitsugaya Toshiro's spiritual pressure skyrocketed, and at the same time, he was not at a disadvantage in the face of 5 broken-faced subordinates who returned to the sword. He even quickly turned the tide of the battle, and directly changed from being suppressed to 1 person pressing the opposite 5 people. Chase. By the time Matsumoto Ranju came to support again, Hitsugaya Toshiro had already pressed and beat the 5 subordinate officers on the opposite side for a while. However, the broken face is a big virtual of the Vastord class after all. Even if it is not a member of the broken face and 10 blades with the ability Pervert, the ability is not easy. Especially after he returned to the blade, his body shape and spiritual pressure all made a qualitative leap. The effect of returning to the blade is similar to Bankai, the god of death. The difference is that the god of death suppresses his own spiritual pressure so as not to affect the world, while the broken face suppresses his own spiritual pressure, so that he can maintain a near-human appearance for a long time. However, they were fighting against the genius captain of the 13th Division of the Shinigami. When the ice flower behind Hitsugaya Toshiro melted to the last piece, the 5 of them had been knocked to the ground by Hitsugaya Toshiro, and their bodies were covered with ice slag. Among them, the tallest broken face Nakin even had his arm cut off. Captain. Matsumoto Renki returned to Hitsugaya Toshiro's side, and looked at Grimmjow in the distance together with him. At this time, the latter's eyes were fierce, like a beast that chose people and devoured them. No wonder Grimmjow did this, his 5 subordinate officers were all his partners in the virtual circle. Before Aizen did the face-breaking experiment in the virtual circle, the 6 Vastord-level virtuosos were already a small group in the virtual circle that supported each other in evolution. Therefore, after Aizen successfully broke their faces, they did not disperse, and still existed in the face-breaking army in the form of a group. It can be said that these 5 subordinate officers and Grimjow are both prosperous and damaged. Grimjow was angry when he saw the 5 broken-faced subordinate officers, and reached out to take out the weapon from his waist. Squeak it, Panther King. While groaning, Grimjow's body erupted with super-powerful spiritual pressure, which was not even stronger than the 5 subordinate officials, forcing Hitsugaya Toshiro to stay away a little. After the spiritual pressure, the broken face mask on Grimjow's cheeks was moved to the forehead, the turquoise eye shadow extended to the temples, the ears were also called blue-green leopard ears, and the short blue hair also changed from short to long, hanging down to the waist. A treasure-colored shirt was replaced by bone armor, and the forearm also grew upside-down bone spurs. After a pair of human palms were covered with bone armor, they resembled the claws of a leopard, extremely sharp. Claw of the Panther King. The Reiatsu was released. Grimjow did not hesitate, his claws slashed across his chest, and 2 huge blue light scars appeared, full of attack and pressure. Ice Imagination. In the empty Hitsugaya Toshiro, seeing the blue claw marks attack, he didn't have time to think about it. After Bankai activated his skills, an ice phantom that looked exactly like him appeared in front of him and hit the blue claw marks. Crack clap. The ice phantom and the blue claw marks dissipated at the same time, and Hitsugaya Toshiro also retreated to Urahara Kazuki with Matsumoto Ranju. Grimjow didn't pursue him, but dodged to the side of the 5 shattered subordinates. After checking their injuries, his inner worries eased a lot. Most of the broken faces have the ability to regenerate at a super speed. As long as they are not fatally injured, they can recover in a very short time. And although his 5 subordinate officials, Reiatsu, were much weaker, they did not suffer life-threatening injuries after all, so there was no threat to their lives. With a wave of his claws in the air, the black voice reappeared, and Grimjow stared at Hitsugaya Toshiro on the ground, with a gleam of light in his eyes. The 5 subordinate officers behind him swayed and stood up, supporting each other and entering the black cavity one after another. Although Hitsugaya Toshiro wanted to stop them from escaping, he silently stood in place after considering that his Bankai would not last long. He didn't move, and the acting god of death, Ichigo Kurosaki, was pulled by Kazuki Urahara by his side, preventing him from rushing towards Grimjow in the air. With Kurosaki Ichigo's current Reiatsu, it is not the 60th blade at all, and Grimjow's opponent can only truly defeat Grimjow in the state of returning to the blade after he has mastered the blur. When all the subordinates under his command entered the black chamber, Grimjow stepped back into the black chamber. After taking a last look at Kurosaki Ichigo and Hitsugaya Toshiro, the black chamber was closed, and Grimjow's terrifying Reiatsu disappeared from the world. Meanwhile, Lei Luo arrives on the battlefield belatedly with the full Bankai version of Higher Inmaru. The moment he saw Zanpakuto in Lei Luo's hands, Hitsugaya Toshiro's heart trembled, and Higher Inmaru in his hands kept shaking, as if he was resisting something. Chapter 368-Glacial Rift. At this time, Lei Luo, because he is already familiar with Higher Inmaru's real Bankai, has slightly changed his body shape. The most obvious thing is that Lei Luo's originally dark hair has turned white at this time, and many parts of his body are covered with thin ice, like a body armor. And as Lei Luo moved, snowflakes often fell where he passed. Captain, that young man in the sky should be the source of the captain-level Reiatsu that we felt in Seorete. But the Zanpakuto in his hands. Although he was aware of the inexplicable captain-level Reiki when he entered the world, Matsumoto's eyes widened when he really saw Zanpakuto himself and came into contact with that Zanpakuto's Reiki at such a close distance. Ranki Matsumoto looked at his captain subconsciously, but found that Hitsugaya Toshiro was shaking, and even Bankai forgot to lift it. Captain. He stretched out his hand and shook it in front of Hitsugaya Toshiro, intending to wake him up. That Zanpakuto isn't Higher Inmaru, it's just close to Higher Inmaru's Reiatsu. Hitsugaya Toshiro came back to his senses, first released Bankai, and then looked at Higher Inmaru in his hand. Matsumoto Ranju naturally knew what the captain was thinking, and as the vice captain, he also understood some of the regulations of the 46th Central Room, and said immediately after hearing the words, "Well, that Zanpakuto must not be Hirenmaru, Captain, you don't need to worry too much." That said, but the two of them knew in their hearts that this matter could only be concealed for a while. When Aizen launched the battle against Kusako, the young man in the sky just showed up and took out Zanpakuto. At that time, another hand appeared. Hirenmaru couldn't hide it. While frowning, a scene that had been hidden in Hitsugaya Toshiro's memory quietly emerged. It was a duel between two gods of death. One of them was Hitsugaya Toshiro, and the other was a little-known god of death. When the two fought, you came and I, but the other party's spiritual pressure was obviously not as good as Hitsugaya Toshiro, so he was beaten to the ground logically in the end, and since then, Hitsugaya Toshiro never saw the same death god again. There is only one reason why Hitsugaya Toshiro recalls these things, that is, that Shinigami has the same Zanpakuto as him, and the purpose of their duel is to decide who can really own Hirenmaru and become this one. The master of Zanpakuto, the strongest ice type recognized by Shioriba. At that time, he won and became the owner of Hirenmaru, and later became the captain of the 10th Division of Gotei 13th Division with Hirenmaru. And now, from the young man in the sky, he felt the breath of Hirenmaru again, and the other party was someone who had mastered the complete Benkai of Hirenmaru. What to do? Another duel. The loser gives up Hirenmaru and suffers from the punishment of the central 46th room. Thinking of the other god of death who disappeared, although he didn't say it, Hitsugaya Toshiro knew the situation of that person very well, so now his heart is full of contradictions. In the next few days, Hitsugaya Toshiro did not return to Sarange. He made an excuse and stayed at Kurosaki Ichigo's house. Anyway, Captain Reaper is usually quite busy. It's hard to be busy a few times a year. Therefore, Sarote did not interfere too much with Hitsugaya Toshiro's stay in the world. Also, because of the special status of Kakuza town, the acting god of death, Ichigo Kurosaki, was seriously injured, so he thought that Captain Death was sitting in Kakuza town. Is also the tacit consent of the captain of the 13th Division of the Gotei. In the past few days, Hitsugaya Toshiro often accompanied Kurosaki Ichigo to the Urahara store. After observation, he has confirmed that the Zanpakuto in Lei Luo's hands must be another Hirenmaru. Why, the Zanpakuto in the hands of others has at most a twin. I am better, the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto is a triplets. Knowing that there will occasionally be twin Zanpakuto in Seirei Garden, and they will be held by different people, so the central 46th room has already stipulated that once there is an incident in which the twin Zanpakuto are held by different people, both parties must fight through a duel. Choose the true owner of Zanpakuto. The duel is a winner and a loser. The winner has the ownership of Zanpakuto, and the loser will be executed. What to do? Is history going to repeat itself? Although Hitsugaya Toshiro did not agree with the regulations of the 46th Central Room, but he was the captain of the 10th Division, and there was no way to disobey the Central 46th Room. No matter what, I'm going to stop this from happening. Hitsugaya Toshiro came to Lei Luo and wanted to speak, but he didn't know what to say. You mean about Hirenmaru? In the past few days, Lei Luo also discovered the abnormality of Hitsugaya Toshiro. After thinking about it, he already understood what he was worried about. But I'm not a god of death. What does the regulation of the 46th Central Room have to do with me? This is Lei Luo's inner monologue, but if he says that, then his relationship with the god of death will collapse. In order to maintain the uniqueness of Zanpakuto, known as the strongest ice type, and to maintain the majesty of the central 46th room, the Guardian 10 the third team will definitely put Lei Luo's name and Aizen together. Maybe before Aizen starts the war, Gotei 13th Division will bring Lei Luo to the Matsuri flag first. At this stage, Lei Luo doesn't plan to take the 13th Division of the Reaper. There is insufficient information. The upper limit of the ability of the old man Yamamoto is unknown. It's better to animate other villains to help him deal with some strong players before taking action. Most importantly, Lei Luo doesn't know how to make Wang Jian. Without Wang Jian, Lei Luo would not be able to reach the Lingwang Palace. Go in. My Zanpakuto is not Hiranmaru, it's Glacier. I have discussed with the store manager Urahara, and he will help me transform the Glacier Rift, so that its spiritual pressure will change, at least so that people other than you will not be able to tell the relationship between the two Zanpakuto. Urahara Kazuki also did not agree with some of the regulations of the Central Room 46, so after knowing that the big Lei Luo was really another Hiranmaru, he agreed to Lei Luo's request without much thought. In the past few days, Urahara Kazuki is on the one hand treating Kurosaki Ichigo's injury, and on the other hand is studying how to transform Hiranmaru in Lei Luo's hands. After all, Hitsugaya Toshiro is the captain of the Shinigami. Everyone is familiar with his Zanpakuto Reiatsu. Just like Matsumoto Ranju, you can easily tell if the Zanpakuto in Lei Luo's hands is Hiranmaru if you feel it at close range. However, with Urahara Kazuki's help, Lei Luo is confident that he can change Hiranmaru's Reiatsu from being noticed by other death god captains. This is the best way. I don't want anyone to die because of Hiranmaru. Those who can get Hiranmaru's approval will definitely not be bad people, but there is no absolute. If you let me know that you used Hiranmaru to do bad things to Serene, then don't risk your life, and I will take back Hiranmaru from your hands. Chapter 369-Abnormal. In the wooden warehouse of the Urahara store, in front of Lei Luo is the remodeled Hiranmaru, which has undergone considerable changes in both appearance and Reiatsu. Even Hitsugaya Toshiro might have a hard time noticing that this weapon is Hiranmaru. Lei Luo had to admire Kazuki Urahara's ability to completely change the shape and Reiatsu of a Zanpakuto in such a short period of time. It's not good. It's not good. There are a lot of big ghosts appearing in Kakuzucho. As soon as he walked out of the warehouse, a loud scream came into Lei Luo's ears. Sumuuyu, who had rushed back from outside, ran into his room and took out a machine gun wrapped in bandages. Just when he was about to run out, he suddenly saw Lei Luo coming from the backyard. Without saying a word, Sumuuyu grabbed Lei Luo and dragged Lei Luo to the outside of the store without saying a word. What are you still doing? The entire Kongza town is about to explode, patrolling the Shinigami, the bottle, the white-haired dwarf Melon, and even the injured household fighting. Let's hurry up too, or the vacant town will be over. As soon as he went out, Lei Luo felt dozens of spiritual pressures, of which the closest one was only a few hundred meters away. There is a huge void there. Under the white mask is an incomparably huge dark body, and there is an equally huge void near the chest. Killian. Around it, there are nearly a dozen patrolling gods of death who are constantly roaming and attacking this Killian-level void. Although it is the lowest existence in the Great Void, its spiritual pressure is not something that ordinary patrolling death gods can easily kill. In the face of the attack of more than a dozen patrolling death gods, this Jillian-level Great Void did not respond. The Reiatsu is completely out of the same order of magnitude. Everyone, hold on, and when Captain Hitsugaya settles the battle on his side, he will come back to help us. A patrolling death shouted loudly, and then a ghostly-like light shot out of his hand and hit the mask on Daxu's head, and the ghostly attack overflowed with spiritual pressure in the explosion. However, the momentum of this attack looks huge, but the effect is not significant, leaving only a trace of black Madara on this big virtual mask. Ow! Perhaps it was pain, or perhaps tired of the riots of these patrolling death gods. This Killian-class big phantom turned his head to look over. The position of the mouth on the mask cracked, and the black phantom flashes slowly condensed. The phantom flash of the Killian-level Daxu, the general patrolling death can't bear it at all. Seeing this, Sumuuyu didn't hesitate, threw Lei Luo down and jumped into the air. The machine gun in his hand spewed out countless light bullets, hitting Daxu's mask continuously. Crack clap. A trace of cracks appeared on Daxu's mask, and when the spiritual light bomb hit the black virtual flash, it detonated the black virtual flash that had condensed many spiritual suns. Boom! In the explosion of the spiritual child, the big virtual head was instantly blown up. Those patrolling death gods who thought they were going to die took a deep breath and thanked Sumuwuyu from a distance. Without stopping, they rushed to the next place where Dashu was. Falling from the sky, Sumuwuyu glanced at Lei Luo. I heard that you have a captain-level Reiatsu. Now that there are not enough people in Kakuzucho, it's time for you to show your captain-level strength. Sumuwuyu carried the spirit machine gun, motioned Lei Luo to perform well, and then walked away without looking back. In another place, Hitsugaya Toshiro once again solved the opponent's big virtual, but before he could rest, another Kirin-level big virtual had come to reality from the virtual circle. Damn it! Isn't it hard for Killian to get out of the virtual circle? Why are there so many here? Before it was too late for Hitsugaya Toshiro to think, the newly appeared Daxu opened his mouth again, and the unique light of the black illusory flash began to flicker. In order to solve the big void in front of him as soon as possible, Hitsugaya Toshiro opened Bankai early, so the efficiency of killing monsters is much faster, but there are too many monsters, and his Bankai has a time limit, which makes it impossible for a while. Stop the Great Void from wreaking havoc in Kakuzucho. In the current Kakuzu town, this situation is almost everywhere in the city. All the patrolling Shinigami, plus Hitsugaya Toshiro, Urahara Kazuki and others can't stop the large number of big voids from destroying Kakuzu town. Because of Aizen's betrayal, there is a big purge going on inside Sarange, and many gods of death have been restricted from moving because of their contact with Aizen. If not, how could so many Killian leave the virtual circle and enter the world to escape? Over the surveillance of Saroite. Damn Aizen. The matter of Hinamori has already made Aizen hated by Hitsugaya, and with this incident, Hitsugaya can't wait to catch Aizen, and then immediately smash his body into 10,000 pieces. I hope Saroite can quickly notice the situation in Kakuzu town. Hitsugaya Toshiro prayed in his heart, because there were too many reasons for Killian, they couldn't open the gate of crossing the realm at all, let alone go to rescue soldiers. Call out. At this moment, a laser suddenly shot from a distance, and effortlessly pierced through the mask of Kirin. Lei Luo. Looking at the silhouette of the laser gradually condensing in front of him, Hitsugaya Toshiro couldn't help frowning. Killing a Killian so easily, and he didn't even notice how Lei Luo did it, plus what happened to Hire Inmaru before, Hitsugaya Toshiro suddenly felt a special feeling in his heart, jealousy. This feeling makes Hitsugaya Toshiro very uncomfortable. He has the same Zanpakuto with him, and Bankai adapts earlier than him, and the shot just now shows that Lei Luo seems to have other abilities that they don't understand. Who is this human being? What is the purpose of his approach to Urahara Kazuki? After these few days of contact, Hitsugaya Toshiro has gained a comprehensive understanding of Urahara Kazuki, and at the same time has developed a lot of interest in him for the unknown human reason for taking in Lei Luo. Wow, who is that human, killing Killian in one fell swoop? Even if it's Captain Death, it's probably like this. Didn't you see Captain Hitsugaya's face? Something must have happened between them. Compared with Hitsugaya Toshiro's more heart, those patrolling death gods who are only low-level death gods surrounded Lei Luo in the center, and in his eyes, a light called worship kept flickering. Captain Hitsugaya, there are still many rogues in the empty town, please let those patrolling death gods work quickly. Lei Luo said and walked away, leaving everyone with a very handsome back. Another battlefield. Lei Luo suddenly appeared, holding the transformed Hire Inmaru in his hand. At this time, the Hire Inmaru had a slender blade, glowing with the unique cold light of ice crystals. With a single slash, a large number of ice blades appeared, smashing a Killian who was fighting the patrolling death into a pure spiritual child. Chapter 370 summoned by Captain Yamamoto. While Lei Luo was fighting in Kakuzu town, Seoringe, where the Shinigami headquarters is located, has also been busy. Because Aizen led the other two captain-level Reaper to defect from the virtual circle, the purge of the 13th Division of Reaper has not ended until now. During this period, everyone in Seorite was in danger, especially the 13th Division where Aizen was located, the 3rd Division where Ishii Silvermaru was located, and the 9th Division where Tosenyao was located. Because of the defection of their respective captains, these 3 divisions have also become the focus of Seirengei's investigation. From the vice captain to the apprentice reaper, as long as it is found that reaper's career is a little vague and difficult to explain, they will be imprisoned in the endless hell under the Seraiti until the investigation team of Seraiti investigates everything. If they are found out, they will be punished or released. It was also during this period that the investigation team discovered the abnormality of the central 46th room, the highest authority of the Seraiti. After Yamamoto Genryuzai Sengoku led many death captains to forcibly broke into the central room 46, it was found that all the members of the central room 46 had already died, and the murderer also locked the blue who defected from the virtual circle after some investigation. This result made the old man Yamamoto look very ugly, because from the results of the investigation, it can be determined that the members of the central 46 room have been dying for a long time. It was controlled by Aizen using the name of room 46. Seriously terrified, the old man Yamamoto felt a cold sweat as he recalled the big and small things that happened in Seirengei, especially some orders issued by the central 46th room. In the Kakuzako battlefield, after Lei Luo joined the battle, the situation on both sides of the battle changed immediately. Originally, Killian was squeezing the battle range of death by virtue of his numerical advantage. After all, there is only one Shinigami captain in the world at this stage, and even with Kazuki Urahara, Ryutsusai is no more than 3 or 4 Shinigami captains. And if dozens of Kirin-level Daxu appeared in the world at one time, as long as 1/3 of them were divided to contain them, then the other Daxu would be enough to make Kakuza-cho lively. If Lei Luo didn't have the Fruit of Light, maybe his addition would not have a great impact on the battle situation, but who gave Lei Luo the ability to have the Fruit of Light? In the face of the speed of light, the fast Shunpo crowned by the god of death is scum, and Lei Luo relies on the super speed movement of his light fruit, and he can often rush to another place from the Yichang battlefield to feel another place to fight Killian within a few breaths. And Lei Luo's strength is also there. To deal with the Killian-level Daxu, Lei Luo never uses a second move. Often, he can end a battle in one place in the shortest time. When all the Killians who invaded Kakuza town were dead, and the many patrolling death gods added up, they found that Lei Luo, who joined the battle last, was the one who killed the most Killian. He's too good. That's Killian. Da Shu, he killed him so easily. God, is this still human? This is more like a god of death than our god of death. This is the evaluation of those patrolling death gods to Lei Luo after the battle of Killian's invasion of Kakuza. It was also from this moment that the name Lei Luo spread among the patrolling death gods in Kakuza town, and became another human being who surpassed Ichigo Kurosaki. Sitting in the backyard of the Urahara store, Lei Luo leisurely basks in the sun and enjoys his quiet nap time. As for Sumiya Yu and Hanagari Jinta, 2 young people, after the Killian invasion, they turned away from their previous arrogance and saw Lei Luo's eyes with Yuhi's heart. Especially Sumuyu, who sneaked into Lei Luo's room several times in the middle of the night, intending to occupy Lei Luo's body. But who is Lei Luo? How can you let a little girl succeed? However, since a large number of Killian invaded Kakuza-cho once, it seems that the gap between the virtual circle and the world has changed. Originally, there were only a lot of empty Kakuzamaki, and since then, there have been large voids from time to time. Sometimes there will even be a big void that surpasses Killian's level. And the impact of the previous battle was not so simple, maybe it was stimulated. Since that battle, Hitsugaya Toshiro rarely appeared in the world. A Tenten followed behind Urahara Kazuki, and held hands with Kurosaki Ichigo. Ling Tiejai earned a piece of money in the wooden warehouse and could not come out. However, such a phenomenon is not without merit. Matsumoto Ranju, who followed Hitsugaya Toshiro to the world, was often bored to look for Lei Luo because the captain was not there. With such a top-notch beauty by her side, eating meat and drinking with her, and occasionally getting a little cheap, Lei Luo's life can be considered comfortable. But Sumu Wuyu was not so happy. After Lei Luo showed her heroic appearance, her little heart was tightly grasped by Lei Luo, otherwise she would not have walked into Lei Luo's room in the middle of the night and wanted to offer her this heart. Green little apple. Since then, Lei Luo has become a small loli, a battlefield where mature beauties only see. Although Matsumoto Ranju doesn't have any love for Lei Luo, who makes her like Mukuro who has nothing to do. Tenten lived like this. Facing the big emptiness that occasionally broke into the world, Lei Luo would often help them solve it at the request of the patrolling death god. Often at this time, Sumuwuyu, who has long since become Lei Luo's little tail, will hold a spirit machine gun not far away to cheer for Lei Luo. The 13th Division of the Gote Division faced off against each other. Captain, the present Kakuza-cho just sent back a piece of information. The deputy captain of the first team, Minister Jiro, stood respectfully in front of Yamamoto Genryuzai Sengoku, holding a piece of information that had just been passed down from the world. There is a Vastord-level Daxu in Kakuza-cho, and it's still in humanoid form, and its abilities are similar to those of the Shinigami, and it has the ability to release Reiatsu similar to Bankai. Deputy God of Death Kurosaki Ichigo was injured, and his companion, Inoue Oriheim, was kidnapped by Komian, and Komian claimed to be Aizen's subordinate, and captured Inoue Oriheim in order to fully awaken Pantama. Kakuza town was invaded by a large number of Killian-level Dashways, and the patrolling death gods suffered heavy casualties. One has Bankai with a human, and the Reiatsu faintly surpasses Hitsugaya Toshiro, and this human is working in Kazuki Urahara's shop. Messages were uttered from the mouth of Minister Jiro, and until the last message was read, Old Man Yamamoto suddenly burst out with a super strong Reiatsu, and the first team's confrontation was destroyed in an instant. When a group of death gods belonging to the first team rushed out of the collapsed house, everyone vaguely heard the voice from their captain. Let Hitsugaya Toshiro, Urahara Kazuki, and Uratsusai come to Seoraiti to see the old man. Right, and that human. Chapter 371 _ Captain's Invitation. On a commercial street in Kakuza-cho, Lei Luo has Sumuya-yu on his left hand and Matsumoto Ranju on his right. Among the three, Lei Luo is handsome, Matsumoto Ranju is hot, Sumuya-yu is small and lovely. Let's go. It attracted the attention of many pedestrians on the commercial street. Here and here, the cones in this store are super delicious for you, Lei Luo, do you want to eat it? I'll buy one for you. And here, their love clothes are very beautiful, Lei Luo, let's buy a set too. And there's. Along the way, Sumuyu always dragged Lei Luo into a store on the left and into a store on the right, completely leaving the other mature beauty aside. Lei Luo is also helpless, and often returns an apologetic smile to Matsumoto Ranju. At this moment, a black shadow fell from the sky and appeared in front of the three of them. This man was wearing a black death tyrant outfit, with a high hat and a mask on his face. Matsumoto Ranju saw the attire of the person who came, with a straight face, and said, "Is Seroite looking for me on a mission?" The visitor's voice was low, and he glanced at the three of Lei Luo. The commander-in-chief has orders to ask Urahara Kazuki, Wohitsusai, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Matsumoto Ranju, and Lei Luo to go to Seranje immediately. After he finished speaking, the death god messenger left in a blink of an eye, without the slightest slack. Captain Yamamoto summoned. It should be because of the information sent back by the captain before. At this time, in the Urahara store, Naruhara Tetsusai walked into the warehouse of the wooden house, and saw Kurosaki Ichigo and Hitsugaya Toshiro both lying weakly on the ground. Urahara Kazuki was sitting with a good time drinking a small wine, and saw holding Ling Taijai came in and asked, "Taijai, what's the matter?" The training of Yehu and Hapengu is at a critical juncture, so don't talk about it if it's not a big deal. Captain Yamamoto wants to see us. Gurutsusai stretched out his finger and pointed at everyone present. Oh, is Yamamoto head? What could it be? By the time Lei Luo and the others returned, Urahara Kazuki had already opened the gate to Seraiti in the backyard, and then the 6 people filed in and entered the Soul Realm. First team match. Lei Luo and others came to the council hall and met Old Man Yamamoto sitting in the council hall under the leadership of the vice captain of the first team. In the council hall, an elderly Shinigami wearing a death tyrant costume and leaning on a cane in his right hand is sitting on the top chair. Apart from that, there are no other seats in this council hall. From this, it can be seen that Old Man Yamamoto is in Shinigami, the position of the 13th division. Where there is him, other death gods can only stand. At this time, the captain of the 13th division, the 3 old men put aside the stack of documents in their hands, and looked at Lei Luo with a serious expression. You are Lei Luo. Yamamoto's voice was not angry and arrogant. Even if he didn't fight now, Lei Luo could still feel the depressing spiritual pressure from the body of the old death god in front of him. I still underestimate the strongest god of death. The hidden spiritual pressure in his body actually makes me feel powerless from the bottom of my heart. Don't be nervous, Captain Hitsugaya has given a detailed introduction to your situation in the information sent back. Have Zanpakudo, and can make Pakudo Bankai. Reiatsu approach captain level Shinigami. Easily kill Kiryu. The old man Yamamoto's face did not change. He looked at Lei Luo and said, I also really want to meet the old man. Maybe I can make you the same agent of death as Kurosaki Ichigo. What do you think? Captain Yamamoto, I'm afraid your proposal. Ding! Quest trigger. Get the approval of Sengoku, Yamamoto Yuanyujai, and become the deputy god of death. The quest rewards god level lottery points 1. The system's voice rang in Lei Luo's ears, making Lei Luo's refusal speechless. His purpose was to kill the Spirit King, which was in contradiction with the god of death. Now it's even better. The system actually made him a member of the god of death. The most embarrassing thing is that Lei Luo has already said half of his words. Well, your proposal is exactly what I hoped, and it is my honor to be the agent of death. With a change of tone, Lei Luo said without Yuhi's heartbeat. Ha ha ha, well, there's my vice captain of the first team, Jiro, the head of the bird, and you have a contest. If you can beat him, or draw a tie with him, I'll appoint you to be another acting death god. In the first team's martial arts field, all the gods of death who saw Captain Yamamoto and his party bowed respectfully, and Yamamoto nodded in response. It could be seen that old man Yamamoto's prestige in Sarange was incomparable. The old man Yamamoto seemed to have a feeling, and suddenly turned his head and asked, Lei Luo, where did your spiritual power come from? As far as humans are concerned, your ability to control spiritual children can usually only be learned by quenchers. Are you a Hecha, like to an Inoue Oriheim? Is it because of his contact with Kurosaki Ichigo that he awakened his abilities? Following the old man Yamamoto, Lei Luo heard this and shook his head. I don't know the source of my ability. I only know that when I wake up one morning, I can suddenly see the ghosts and death wandering in the city. As for Zanpakudo, it was a weapon that was suddenly separated from my body during an attack by the virtual. It was only after Zanpakudo appeared that I was able to freely control the Reiatsu in my body. As for Ichigo Kurosaki, I don't know him, but I should have had contact with him. After all, they are all people living in Kakuza town. After listening to Lei Luo's words, the 3 old men didn't say anything. Before they knew it, the group had arrived at the martial arts field in the first team, and walked to an open space. The old man Yamamoto motioned to Minister Jiro and Lei Luo to prepare for a contest between the two. When the crowd dispersed, Lei Luo and Jiro, the head of the bird, also took out their own Zanpakudo. Lei Luo's Zanpakudo appeared, the gods of death surrounding him let out a burst of exclamation. Zanpakudo in Lei Luo's hands is the same as that of Kurosaki Ichigo, all of which are different from ordinary Zanpakudo's blades, and because of Kazuki Urahara's transformation, as long as Lei Luo is willing, he can keep Zanpakudo's Shikai state. After Captain Yamamoto called out the start, Jiro, the head of the sparrow, opened his mouth and whispered, and a ghost with a level lower than 30 was released by him. Ice thorns and needles. Swinging Zanpakuto, countless tiny ice needles flew out from in front of Lei Luo, smashing the ghosts and spirits shot by Minister Jiro. The remaining ice needles remained unabated, and stabbed into the pavement at the feet of Minister Jiro. Among the slates, Provincial Minister Jiro shouted hello. From the situation just now, he knew that Lei Luo really has some strength, so he stopped making tentative attacks, put Zanpakuto on his chest, and the spiritual pressure in his body skyrocketed. Depending on the situation, it's time to raise the Reiatsu and let go of the attack. At this moment, countless icicles suddenly grew on the ground under his feet. Unprepared, Jiro the Sparrow could only give up the Reiki that he had accumulated and jumped aside, while Lei Luo was already prepared, the moment he jumped up. A dodge came to his back, reversing Zanpakuto lined up on the neck of the Provincial Minister Jiro. Okay, stop. The old man Yamamoto was a little surprised. You can hide the Reiatsu in the attack that has already been launched, and let the head of the Sparrow Jiro not be able to make a difference, but the control ability of the Reiatsu is not inferior to the captain-level Reaper at all. From now on, you will be another agent of death. Back in the meeting room of the first team, before everyone spoke, the old man Yamamoto had already completed his confession to Lei Luo. Chanjiro, tell Yukitaki to have him prepare a death certificate. Yes, Captain. Provincial Minister Jiro was ordered to leave, and the old man Yamamoto learned about the situation of Kakusa town in detail from the Hitsugaya group, and then drank the crowd and stayed in the council hall to think about it. Chapter 372 _ The rain is coming. The next morning, Lei Luo woke up early and looked around lazily. The morning in Seo Lingting was the same as in this world, and the sun also rose from the east. After a simple wash and satisfied with the 5 Zhang temple, Lei Luo went out and walked out. Just outside the 10th team's dormitory, a young death god hurried over from a distance, and when he came to Lei Luo's side, he immediately took out something from his arms. Lei Luo, this is the proxy death pass that Captain Fuju asked me to give you. With this, you are the proxy death. You can come and go freely between Jingalingting and this world. The young god of death briefly introduced the function of the token to Lei Luo, then turned around and walked in the direction he came from without stopping too much. The 13th Division of the Goading Court had the habit of morning training. If the captain hadn't made special arrangements for these gods of death, they would not have left their opponents in the morning. When the juvenile death was far away, Lei Luo took the proxy death pass in his hand and read a lot. In the original book, the proxy death pass is not only a status symbol of the proxy death. It also has another function, monitoring the holder's Reiatsu, no matter where the person wearing the proxy Reaper pass is. As long as there is a trace of Reiatsu released, Yukitaki Shuru can use the proxy Reaper pass to find where the person is. Holding the agent death pass, Lei Luo's mind moved, and the light escape. Yuhi's outside perception was activated instantly, and in an instant, Lei Luo had completely mastered the situation within 10 kilometers around him. Sure enough, Lei Luo opened his eyes, and near where he was standing, many young death gods in death fighter costumes were ambushing around. Looking at the expressions and movements of those people, it was obvious that they were watching Lei Luo in the dark. It can be seen that the old man Yamamoto is not completely relieved about Lei Luo, and making him the agent of death may have the intention of attracting him, but more, he wants to use the agent death pass to monitor Lei Luo. For this situation, Lei Luo had long expected that the use of Yuhi's external perception was just to confirm the thoughts in his heart. As Lei Luo walked around the serene court, the gods of death who were hiding in the dark never showed up, but Lei Luo could always feel their presence. Until he arrived at the Xuanji Gate and greeted Kazuki Urahara and others, Lei Luo did not explain to everyone that someone was watching him, and followed everyone into the Xuanji Gate without saying a word. Returning to the world again, before Lei Luo could see the surroundings clearly, a figure rushed over. Lei Luo, you are finally back. Sumoyu had been waiting outside the gate of Xuanji for a long time, so when he saw Lei Luo appear, he couldn't hold back his mood. Cough cough cough. Urahara Kazuki was embarrassed for a while. Although he knew Sumuwuyu's attitude towards Leiluo, Leiluo didn't say that he wanted Sumuwuyu to be his girlfriend, and from the performance of the previous days, Leiluo seemed to like Matsumoto Ranju more. At this time, in order to cover up his embarrassment, Urahara Kazuki could only pretend to be a coughing figure and pay attention to his behavior. Unexpectedly, the other party not only did not notice, but looked at himself curiously. "Store manager, what's the matter with you? Didn't sleep well last night and caught a cold? It's not supposed to be right. You're the latest version of the Mukuro. Don't say you have a cold and a fever. Even a super virus can't affect your body, right?" Sumuwuyu let go of Leiluo and came to Urahara Kazuki's side, looking at Urahara Kazuki up and down, inside and out, almost ripping off Urahara Kazuki's clothes. Cough. Urahara Kazuki's face was stiff, and he wished he would get into the gate and never come out again. After the little episode, everyone left Schwanjiman and returned to the Urahara store. After the trouble of Sumuya, everyone's mood was much better. Urahara Kazuki is so thick-skinned that he returned to normal early on the previous farce. Sitting in the Urahara store at this time, everyone look at me, I look at you, especially Urahara Kazuki and the other captains of death who came from Jingling Garden together. Yesterday in Saranjay, apart from Leiluo who was arranged to rest early by old man Yamamoto, Urahara Kazuki and Warai Tetsusai were actually called to the meeting room of the first team building again after midnight. In the second meeting room, old man Yamamoto called all the captains of the Shinigami who were in Jingling Garden together. Hitsugaya Toshiro was the keynote speaker, and the kidnapped Inoue Orihime. In the end, under the reminder and explanation of Urahara Kazuki, all the captains of the death gods reached a consensus, and quickly made a decision to use the barrier to transfer Kakuza-cho to the Seirei Garden, Kakuza Town, in order to deal with Aizen's next actions. Leiluo, let me first introduce you to these death god captains. Urahara Kazuki briefly explained the plan he had designated last night, and then pushed several Reaper captains in the uniforms of the squad captains to the front. This is the 13th Division of the Guardian, the captain of the 2nd Division, Broken B, and the second opposition is a hidden mobile unit, and they can be found in the large and small operations of the Soul Society. This is the captain of the 4th Division, Maujawali. The 4th Division is the medical unit, and the medical skills are unparalleled in the world. This is the captain of the 6th Division, Kuchiki Byakuya, the patriarch of the Kuchiki family, a great noble in the Soul Society, with a proud status. There is also the vice captain of their squad. Urahara Kazuki will introduce to everyone all the captains and their vice captains who secretly came to the world from the Piercing Gate. Except for Renault, Sumiyu and another boy who worked in the Urahara store, other people in these captains still have a relationship with them. They had met before, so the two sides were simply polite. After the two sides got to know each other briefly, Urahara Kazuki's face became serious, and he announced what was decided in the first team's quarters late last night. According to the investigations of the Corpse Soul Society these days, the purpose of Aizen's capture of Bengyu has become clear. That guy actually wanted to use Bengyu to make a king key in Kakuza town, and use the made king key to enter the spirit. The palace. Everyone here may not know much about the Spirit King Palace, but Kuchiki Byakuya, Broken B, you two should know what the Spirit King represents, right? If Aizen creates the Wangjian and uses the Wangjian to enter the Spirit King Palace, then not only the Soul world will be in danger of disappearing, but even the virtual circle and the present world will be affected. Gone. According to Captain Yamamoto's instructions, we must stop Aizen's actions. First, use the barrier to hide the real Kakuza town, and then use the created fake Kakuza town as a battlefield to wipe out Aizen and the leader in one fell swoop. The Phantom Circle Face-Breaking Army. Chapter 373-Grim Reaper. Leiluo knew something about Spirit King and Kakuzako, so he wasn't surprised when he heard Kazuki Urahara's commentary, but Ichigo Kurosaki and others were different, especially Ichigo Kurosaki, who became the acting god of death. The time is not long, so I don't know what the Spirit King Palace, the Spirit King means. But he understands what it means to make Kuzucho the battlefield of Captain Reaper and the face-to-face showdown. If Shinigami and Pomian really fight above Kakuza town, then the Reiatsu of both sides will be fully deployed, and there will never be any more human beings in Kakuza town. When do we act? Kurosaki Ichigo is the most impatient. Time waits for no one. Hurry up and get things done in Kakuzako. He still dares to go to the virtual circle to rescue Inoue Oriheim. In the air, a burst of spiritual pressure shards rolled down, scaring away the patrolling death gods who were watching the fun, and two figures slowly emerged. It was Lei Luo and Kuchiki Byakuya. Captain Kuchiki, how can you prepare to train me? Lei Luo said disdainfully, for the Captain Reaper, who has a strong appearance in the original book and has the ability to change and attack in 1,000 ways, he felt that this nobleman was not pleasing to the eye in his heart. Young people, don't think that if you have a little strength, your eyes are on the top of your head. You have to know that there are people outside people, and a mountain is taller than a mountain. Looking at the young and vigorous Lei Luo, Kuchiki Byakuya seemed to see the former Kurosaki Ichigo, the same acting death god, who took the same initiative to challenge him. Young people, only when they have been taught a lesson will they know what it means to be humble. Hearing Kuchiki Byakuya's words, Lei Luo didn't bother to pay attention. There is someone outside. Yishin is higher than Yishin. This kind of thing, the old man Yamamoto said, is okay. Kuchiki Byakuya seems to be a little bit worse. Who do you think you are? You're just a captain of the god of death. Facing Kurosaki Ichigo, who just learned Bankai, he couldn't easily overthrow him. Now that Kurosaki Ichigo has grown so much, I'm afraid the two of you will fight again and beg for mercy. That person will be you. Lei Luo pointed at Kurosaki Ichigo in the distance. The latter obviously had an obvious black line on his forehead, and even swung his hands together, even saying that he would definitely not be able to beat Kuchiki Byakuya. His explanation instantly made Kuchiki Byakuya's face ugly. Go ahead, as a senior, I will give you 3 moves. Ignoring Kurosaki Ichigo, Kuchiki Byakuya seemed to be stimulated by Lei Luo's contempt. Zanpakuto, which had been scattered into petals in his hand, reconvened into a blade, forcibly suppressed his anger, and said to Lei Luo. In any case, he must pay attention to his words and deeds. After all, he is the captain of the death god, and he is also a role character of the corpse and soul world. He must not lose the face of the corpse and soul world. Oh, 3 moves. Do you want me to give you 10 moves? In Lei Luo's eyes, Kuchiki Byakuya suddenly became a little cute, and without even looking at who the person in front of him was, he dared to say a few tricks to the other party. However, Kuchiki Byakuya faced Lei Luo's repeated and repeated provocations, and finally he couldn't bear it any longer. Kun Komer, the mask of flesh and blood, the omnipresent, the thing that flutters high, and bears the name of man. Truth and temperance, the wall of ignorant dreams, only on it. Broken Tao 33 blue fire falls. This fire is really hot. Lei Luo narrowed his eyes slightly, and fanned the knife in front of him twice with his right hand. The cold air on the surface of the glacial rift skyrocketed, and the flames that hit Lei Luo were frozen. Higher Enmaru, which was transformed by Urahara Kazuki, has always remained in Shikai state, coupled with the infinite spiritual pressure provided by the fallen heart flame in Lei Luo's body, facing the mere 33 destruction, Lei Luo can easily crack it suppress. Inadvertently, Lei Luo saw a smile on the corner of Kuchiki Byakuya's mouth through the frozen flame in front of him. Before Lei Luo could react, the frozen flame in front of him suddenly surged and broke through the glacier in an instant. The ice formed by the rift directly rushed towards Lei Luo's face. At 0.01 seconds, Lei Luo turned into golden light, dodged the flames, and reformed into a human form on the other side. Boy, do you think you can freeze the complete chant of the captain-level death god with the ice-type Zanpakuto in your hand? You are a little too naive. Behind Lei Luo, Kuchiki Byakuya had a smile on his lips, and slowly moved the 1000 Sakuraji in his hand to Lei Luo's back. His eyes were full of ridicule. PFF'd. The blade penetrated the body, and the expected blood splash did not appear, and Kuchiki Byakuya obviously noticed the abnormality in front of him and turned to look behind him. This speed seems to have exceeded the limit of Shunpo. The battle-hardened Byakuya Kuchiki saw at a glance that Lei Luo relied on some kind of instant technique to escape his own blow, but what surprised him was Lei Luo's limit speed, and even that speed was far away. Far beyond the secret mobile unit that is famous in the Soul Society for its telekinesis. The broken bee in the distance was the same as Kuchiki Byakuya, with shock on her face. She put herself in her shoes and thought about it. If she were to use Shunpo with all her strength, there might still be some gap between the speed of Lei Luo's movement just now. Boy, this is the second lesson now. Faced with different situations, formulate different combat plans, and must not remain the same. Kuchiki Byakuya quickly recovered from his stupor. The next moment, Kuchiki Byakuya disappeared, and the 1,000 cherry blossoms in his hand began to drift away, turning into petals scattered, and the range was many times larger than before. At this time Kuchiki Beizai also knew that Lei Luo's strength was not much worse than him, so he no longer kept secrets, but the two sides were just discussing. Even if Lei Luo's words were repeatedly unkind to him, he never thought of making Lei Luo eat big. It's a loss, but a little punishment is still needed, otherwise, where would he have to put the face of his deadwood patriarch? And Mao Zhawali was present. Even if he really missed and injured Lei Luo, it would not affect the next battle with Aizen Posuo's face-breaking army. The two sides are in the same camp, so all shots are measured. Although Lei Luo's language is sharp, but in the battle, Lei Luo is not easy. At least when Kuchiki Byakuya is on full defense, Lei Luo will hardly be effective even if he attacks with all his strength. However, Lei Luo also has some scruples. He uses all the abilities that come with Glacier Rift. Even if he moves, he will try not to make himself elemental. Otherwise, in the face of so many Death God captains, Lei Luo feels that he seems to have no way to explain the elements. The ability to transform this kind of death world does not exist. The two sides fought for a while, and after realizing that Shikai couldn't defeat the other, Kuchiki Byakuya turned around at will, drew his knife and jumped behind him. Lei Luo didn't chase after seeing his opponent withdraw. There is no prejudice between the two, and the reason for the fight between the two is just because Kuchiki Byakuya can't stand Lei Luo's ignoring attitude towards Sumiya. Originally, this wasn't a big deal. As the patriarch of Kuchiki Byakuya's big family, he wouldn't start with Lei Luo for such a trivial matter, but who made Kazuki Urahara such a boring master in the world? Under his instigation, a group of Death God captains who were originally interested in Lei Luo's strength discussed with each other. Now both sides can't win each other with Shikai fighting, and this is not life and death, and there is no need to fight Benkai, so Kuchiki Byakuya finally chose to end this boring battle. When the spiritual pressure of both parties became normal, both Lei Luo and Kuchiki Byakuya both landed on the ground. At this time, a white barrier Jinchuriki column was completed beside everyone. Stroking the barrier Jinchuriki column, Urahara Kazuki gestured the captains present poured their own Reiatsu into the enchantment Jinchuriki column one after another. Chapter 374-10 Blades. After a long time, the enchantment Jinchuriki column in front of everyone glowed brightly, shrouding everything around it, like a large piercing gate. With the brief absence of several people at the scene, the place where everyone is located has undergone earth-shaking changes. The occasional human voices disappeared in an instant, and the surrounding birds and beasts also encountered the same situation. After the column fluoresced, it fell into a dead silence. The leaders of the gods of death, who were sensitive, noticed the abnormality around them at the first time, and they all stared at each other with incredible brilliance in their eyes. Manager Urahara, have you successfully transferred Kakuzu-cho to the Soul Realm? As the commander of the mobile unit, Shubi is most concerned about the success of the transfer of Kakuzu-cho. Yes, Kakuzu Town has been transferred. In order to prevent the humans living in Kakuzu Town from appearing abnormal in the Soul Realm, I also use the enchantment Jinchuriki column to hypnotize them. Now they should have fallen into a coma. Urahara Kazuki turned his head and grinned at Broken Bee and the others. Well, to be able to develop the technology to transfer a city in such a short period of time is indeed the person who created the Technology Development Bureau. Nimayuri's pervert always claims to be the smartest god of death, but judging from your performance, Manager Urahara, the difference between the two of you is quite obvious. Niyuli can't do it, he's just one of my little followers, he always asked me questions before, he's an annoying guy. Broken Bee and the others chatted with Urahara Kazuki casually. At this time, the place where everyone was located was already a fake empty town created by using the barrier Jinchuriki column. Except for the layout and the real empty town, everything else was just used. The false appearance created by the spirit child. Manager Urahara, Aizen wouldn't have noticed the abnormality of Kakuzucho. If he didn't come here, wouldn't we just do these things in vain? Madara's head is the third seat of the 11th Division of the Guardian. He loves fighting, and his fighting style is very characteristic of the 11th Division. When he fights, he will die. Can use Bankai's Grim Reaper. At this time, Madara has a good relationship with the acting god of death, Kurosaki Ichigo, so after asking the captain for special instructions, he has come to the world first. Due to the lack of knowledge, this question will only be asked after the transfer of Kakuzucho. Don't worry about this, the transfer barrier Jinchuriki column I made is quite stable. If you don't enter this area, you can't see any clues from the spirit and other places. As long as Aizen enters this fake vacant town, at that time, the 13th Division of the Shinigami will be dispatched. At that time, even if he finds out that this vacant town is fake, it is already a turtle in a urn. Urahara Kazuki pointed to the barrier Jinchuriki column in front of him, briefly answered Madara's question, and then looked at the other death god captains. The commander-in-chief should have already started arranging the defense of Kakuzucho in the Soul Society. When everything is ready, he will lead the other death god captains here. What we have to do now is to wait quietly for Aizen to get into the condom. At this time, in the Soul World, Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku was dispatching a large number of death gods to guard the real empty town hidden somewhere in Liushin Street. Sai Sengoku turned to look at Jiro, the head of the sparrow behind him. Changjiro, the command here is left to you, make sure that the city is not discovered by Aizen. Yes, Captain. Provincial Minister Jiro heard the sound, and while he was watching, Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku led the other death god captains to come to the world through the gate in front of him. At the same time, in the sky above Kakuzucho, on the other side of the side separated from the captains of the gods of death, 10 figures in white robes walked out of the black cavity opened in the void. According to Aizen-sama's request, we want to get rid of all the gods of death in this city in the shortest possible time. The person who spoke was a man in a white robe, and his whole body did not have a virtual mask representing the identity of the broken face. Toxian wants, Aizen-sama asked you to direct this operation, so what is your plan? Following behind Dong Xianyao, wearing a white robe, with a round, Lin Jiao, collar, with long black mid-parted hair, and holding a giant scythe in his hand, he asked arrogantly. Nutra Gilger, who was originally the 8th shaman, was a ruthless man who was promoted because he attacked the 3rd shaman and defeated the original 3rd shaman. He had an arrogant personality, even if he ranked higher than himself. No respect at all. Facing Dong Xianyao, Nutra Gil's attitude was very arrogant. If it weren't for the fear of creating his Aizen ability, I am afraid that this guy would really dare to disobey the order, kill Dong Xianyao, and then escape this action of command. Based on what I know about Captain Death, our strength is not inferior to them at all. Therefore, when the action begins, each will find his own opponent according to his preferences. Dong Xian must think that he understands the abilities of all the death god captains, and is quite confident in the 9 broken faces brought to the world, not to mention that these people are only the advance team, and the main point of the attack is still behind. If that's the case, let's take care of ourselves. Nutra Gilger sticks out his tongue as he speaks, and the number 5 representing his identity number is clearly engraved on his tongue. I don't care about the others, I just need you not to trouble Ichigo Kurosaki, he's mine. With the 60th blade with short blue hair, Grimjow Jacques looked at his companions with cold eyes. Although they were both 10 blades, there was no friendship between them. If there is a chance, I believe that one of them most people will kill these so-called companions around them. I can deal with anyone, but according to the information from the spies in the Soul Society, it seems that the commander-in-chief of the 13th Division, Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku has also come to this world, so I'm afraid we can't deal with him alone. 9 broken faces. The only female broken face looked at Dong Shanqiang. You don't have to worry about this, Captain Aizen already has a way to deal with him. And Captain Aizen is going through a black voice. Our vanguard is just saying hello to the captains of death. When Dongxian was about to speak, his blinded head turned to the distance. From his perception, he could clearly detect nearly 10 familiar spiritual pressure auras. Especially one of the spiritual pressures, the familiar feeling touched his heart deeply. Komamura Zojin, it's very painful not to be able to live in the realm of souls. So let me end your pain here. Dong Xian wanted to whisper in his heart, so he waved his hand forward, and the broken-faced 10 blades beside him moved in response to the situation, and rushed to the Reiatsu that he had identified. Chapter 375 _ The Strength of Captain Yamamoto. Dozens of figures were flying in the sky above the empty town with many tall buildings. These figures had one feature in common, that is, they were all wearing white robes. At this moment, on the other side of Kakuzu-cho, there are also dozens of death gods wearing black death tyrant costumes. They sensed the mighty pressure of a dozen white figures. These dozens of death gods were not surprised. On the contrary, the eyes of several gods of death also showed the light of anticipation. This will be the first real confrontation between the god of death and the broken face. It has been 2 or 3 months since Aizen defected. During this time, the god of death was closely investigating the whereabouts of Aizen, and Aizen was also using Bengyu to create a large number of broken faces. East Immortal, we're going to fight the god of death soon. Aren't you ready to pull out the other junk salads from the Broken Face Legion to deal with those little gods of death? Looking at the approaching death camp and the increasingly obvious and suppressed Reiatsu, the Balagan Ruzan gang, the 20th Blade, looked up at the leader, Tosenyao. As the former king of the Virtual Circle, Balagan Ruzan is cautious by nature. Even in the face of enemies who are weaker than himself, he will not relax his carelessness. Therefore, before the two sides really make a move, his idea is to use those low-level broken faces. It is the best solution to consume the power of the death god. All right. Dong Xianyao did not turn his head. He pulled out Zanpakuto from his waist with his right hand, and slashed at the void in front of him. Thorn Lala. As the void cracked open, a pitch-black void formed in the blue sky, and figures in white death tyrants emerged from the black cavity. Finally come to this world. This time I want to eat enough. Death. Where is the god of death? Where is the god of death who hurt me? Death is a beautiful eternity. God of death, let Brumface 34 lead you into that beautiful eternity. Emperor Balagang, my former master, even if I am now the commander of the Zai Palace, Master Aizen, my loyalty to you has not changed at all. One after another, the number engraved Rakuman emerged from the black cavity, facing the world and the hated death that they had nostalgic for. The few who ranked at the bottom even gave up the Reiatsu that suppressed themselves, and only just met. For the god of death, he has already entered the state of returning to the blade. The shape of the broken face that evolved into a human also disappeared in an instant, replaced by a huge virtual body. Roar. In the roar, these broken faces behind the blade rushed to the camp of the god of death with Shunbu. Gotei 13th Division. All the Shinigami begin to clear the broken face that entered Kakuzu-cho. Facing the rushing face, Sengoku Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku, who had a long white beard, gave orders to the Captain Reaper and the respective vice captains of the 13th Division in a low voice. Yes. The Shinigami around Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku shouted in unison and pulled out their Zanpakuto from their waists. Break him, five-shaped head. Roar, Shawaimaru. Break him out, Iron Lacewing. These vice captains of the Shinigami didn't often fight with the virtual, so the moment they felt the other party's Reiatsu, they all realized the seriousness of the situation in front of them. The first time they took out the Zanpakuto, they opened their shikai one after another. The shackles of the spiritual pressure on the body disappeared, and these vice captains all showed good combat power, but the opponents were many more than them. It is difficult to end the battle in a short period of time. The spiritual pressure of the aerial battle was surging, and many death gods died tragically in the hands of the face-breaking army, and only a few vice-captain-level death gods could protect themselves. In front of him, Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku was no longer calm, and his narrowed eyes slowly filled a gap. Zenka no Tachi, Ryujin Jaka. Boom. The fiery Reiatsu appeared the moment Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku opened his eyes, and instantly vaporized and disappeared into the air, a few broken faces approaching him. At the same time, below Kakuzucho, several not-so-weak Reiatsu emerged from the ground, and then arrived at the battlefield. Sit on the frosty sky. Higher Enmaru. Black rope, God condemn Hades. Let's scatter. Senbon Sakura. Ha ha ha, there are so many broken faces, this time I can cut enough at once. Bankai. Several leaders of Shinigami and their vice-captains who came to Kakuza town in front of them felt the Reiatsu of the fierce collision in the air, and rushed over after the two sides fought for a while. Captain, Aizen hasn't shown up yet. It's okay, let's get rid of these little ones in front of us first. Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku's tone was unquestionable. Zanpakuto with a flaming flame in his hand swung down, and the fiery flames burst out. Tashianyao, what is the way you said Aizen-sama dealt with this old pervert? Now that he has taken action, should he tell everyone that method? The top 10 shamans were all shocked by the terrifying Reiatsu of Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku. If they didn't escape in time, they would have vanished into the world as steam like those evaporated shamans. That method is in the hands of Master Aizen. This time we came to this world as the vanguard, and Captain Aizen didn't tell me that method. And our mission is to let Captain Yamamoto release his Reiatsu. Now that the goal has been achieved, Captain Aizen should arrive in the world soon. Tosenyao's forehead was also sweating. Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku was known as the first god of death in 1,000 years, and the terrifying Reiatsu was enough to fight all the captains of Gotei 13th Division by one person. And Zanpakuto, Zenka no Tachi, held by Sengoku, Yamamoto, is known as the strongest Zanpakuto of the fire system. Shikai can have extremely high temperature. If Bankai, then the temperature of the space will be extremely high, eventually it will even reach the temperature of the surface of the sun. However, Zenka no Tachi's attack is indistinguishable. The enemy and his own will die because they can't bear the extreme high temperature of Zenka no Tachi, so unless he has to, Sengoku Yamamoto and Genryusai Sengoku will never release his Bankai with all his strength. Even so, Tosenyao's heart has been beating drums all the time, and Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku, who is only in Shikai state, is not something they can deal with the broken faces and the rebellious death gods. Captain Aizen, when are you coming? Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku had already made his move, so he had no plans to stop it. One after another blazing flames swept past with his slashes, and as long as there was a broken surface nearby, it would be directly vaporized. In just a few minutes, those arrogant face-breaking legions suffered heavy casualties, and even several people among the 10-blade breaking face were severely injured because they could not dodge in time. However, the 10 blades of the broken face are much stronger than those rubbish broken faces. In addition, the broken face itself has the ability to regenerate at a high speed, so the injury can be recovered quickly, but the spiritual pressure in the body will be greatly reduced due to the recovery of the injury. That's it. Chapter 376_Toxinyao's deadly remarks. Dong Xianyao, as the former death god captain, have you lost the courage to face your former comrades in arms? Holding Zenka no Tachi, Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku, with cold eyes, looked at Tosenyao, who was in the army of broken faces through the defensive circle formed by layers of broken faces, and his tone was as cold as his eyes. Facing his former boss, although Dong Xianyao's eyes are blind, his heart is still clear. So Aizen's original plan was by no means like that. Hearing the words, Dong Xian had to look around. Outside the defensive circle of the Shanpomian Legion, there were as many as 9 Death God captains standing in the void. Captain Yamamoto, Yukataki Shuru, Zaraki Kenpachi, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Byakuya Kuchiki. Captain, it seems that you are very interested in this action. You have brought all the captains of death to the world. Do you already know the meaning of Kuzucho to Captain Aizen? Dong Xian wanted to have a wry smile on his face. The entire Guardian Team 13th Division's Death God Captain, except for the 2nd Division's Niyuli and our 3 Pantao captains, all the rest of the people actually gathered here. The Death God captains are all terrifying spiritual pressures, and they have an unparalleled position in the Corpse Soul world. It is no exaggeration to say that if the Corpse Soul world loses the protection of these captain-level Death Gods, I am afraid that the entire Corpse Soul world will collapse and disappear. After all, you can't deal with Daxu by simply pulling out a God of Death. Without Master Benkai's God of Death, you can only be killed and swallowed in the face of Daxu. And Benkai is the standard for the death of the captain, a death who does not know Benkai, unless his spiritual pressure is terrible to pervert, or he is not qualified to be the captain of the death. When it comes to Captain Death, I have to mention one of the outliers. Zaraki Kenpachi, the only one of the Shinigami captains who doesn't know Benkai, but his terrifying Reiatsu deeply shocked all other Shinigami team captains. This situation is particularly fascinated by Niyuri, who is currently the director of the Seroiti Technology Development Bureau, but he has done a lot of research on the situation of Zaragi Kenpachi, but he has never been able to fully understand the reason. Dear former comrades, do you really think that we are sinners who betrayed Seroiti and the Soul Society? In your eyes, the Seroiti, the 13th Division of the Guardian, and even the entire Soul world are nothing but a scam. Why was our Death God born, and why are we constantly guiding the kind-hearted undead into the Soul world? Why are there blame people in hell? How do those blame people get into hell? Who built hell? Why can't the God of Death enter hell and intervene in hell? Once fellows, aren't you curious about these? Spirit King, the creator of the Corpse Soul world, the supreme being who lives in the Spirit King Palace, after so many years, have any of you ever really seen the Spirit King? Let me tell you, the Spirit King has been cut into pieces. The so-called Spirit King Palace is nothing but the Spirit King's cage, where the first generation of Death God imprisoned the frequently undead king. The Spirit King who was dismantled into 8 pieces is very weak. The first generation of Death Gods can kill the Spirit King effortlessly, but the spirit hood between the soul world and the virtual circle is constructed with the Spirit King's spiritual power. If you die, then the spiritual shroud shrouded in the sky above the soul world will disappear, and the soul world will cease to exist. For the eternal existence of the soul world, the Spirit King cannot die, and the first generation of Death Gods were afraid that the body and spiritual power of the Spirit King would slowly recover due to the passage of time, so they induced good undead into the soul world in an attempt to use them. The spiritual power in the body restrains the spiritual king's body from recovering. Do you know what the Spirit King's body is? Why can the spiritual pressure on the good undead inhibit the recovery of the Spirit King's injury? Tell you, the Spirit King's body is actually... Boom boom boom. A huge flaming sword light suddenly appeared, covering up what Dong Xian wanted to say. Yamamoto Genryusai Sengoku looked at Dong Xian with a livid face. His body was terrifying, and he forced several surrounding Death God captains back out. Broken Road 96. Cremation with one knife. The Commander-in-Chief actually used such a high-level break. You can imagine the anger index in the heart of the Commander-in-Chief. Although I have heard of the existence of the Spirit King, this is the first time I have heard of the Spirit King being split into 8 pieces. In the end, Dong Shanyu seems to be saying that the Spirit King is void, Could it be that the soul realm itself is a void territory, but was it later occupied by our death god? We don't need to pay attention to such untruthful remarks. Even if what Dongxian wants to say is the truth, since King Spirit is false, it would be a good idea to imprison him in the palace of Spirit King. Although the Shinigami captains were not affected by what Tosen was about to say, the Shinigami around him whispered. Anyone who learns that the virtual reality that he has been beheading all day long may be the same existence as his creator, will inevitably be a little shaken in his heart. East Immortal wants, is this what Aizen told you? Yamamoto Yuanujai Sengoku held Zenka no Tachi, his body almost turned into a substantial flame, and the void around him gradually showed signs of melting. Originally, I wanted to capture you alive and bring you back to the Seraiti for interrogation, but your remarks are too dangerous. The existence of the Spirit King is a taboo for the entire Seraiti. And now, not only did you know the existence of the Spirit King, but you also wantonly slandered the Spirit King in front of so many gods of death, trying to use words to shake the heart of the god of death under the control of this old man. It's really a heinous crime. Yamamoto Genryuzai Sengoku has been furious to the extreme, and the matter of the Spirit King is the most closely guarded information he has ever kept. But now, the information that he has protected the most for thousands of years has been detected by Aizen unknowingly. How can this kind of anger be described in words? Holding Zenka no Tachi, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Yeguni shouted angrily, and a huge flaming blade was created out of thin air, slashing towards the position Tosen wanted again. This time, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saikuni did not use Dao-breaking skills, but directly used Zenka no Tachi in his hand. With the blessing of Zenka no Tachi, the fiery Reiatsu formed a huge flame-shaped sword beam that was not inferior to the 96 sword cremation. Dao 96 just now has killed and wounded most of the Bromian army in front of Toxian Yao. Although these Bromian were ordered by Aizen to desperately protect Toxian Yao, they faced Yamamoto Motoyanai Shigekuni's anger. Many broken faces still gave birth to the idea of running away. Crack clap. Just when the broken face army was hesitating whether to die or flee, in front of them, a small black cavity quietly opened, and then a young broken face with a virtual mask on his head came out from it. In the face of the menacing flaming sword light, the newly appeared young man with a broken face did not have a trace of worry on his face. On the contrary, he was very excited and rushed towards the flaming sword light. Chapter 377 _ The front end of the war, their respective opponents. The fiery flame of the knife Meng is coming, and it will instantly engulf the young broken face that is pounced on it. At the same time, in the black cavity in front of the face-breaking army, Aizen wearing a white death tyrant costume came to the world from the virtual circle, and behind him, Ichi Silvermaru, with white hair and squinting eyes, followed. Captain, you are still so violent. You are already so old. Some things are better for young people to solve. The person who spoke was Aizen, who led Tosenyao and Ichi Silvermaru to defect into the virtual circle. Facing the blazing sword light that swept in front of him, Aizen didn't move, as if he didn't see the crisis in front of him. Just when everyone thought that Aizen was sure to die, the flaming sword light that immediately touched the tip of Aizen's nose suddenly began to retreat, and the flame sword light that was several miles long gradually retracted and finally disappeared in the air. When the flames completely disappeared, the young man who had rushed to the flames before came to Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saijokuni with hiccups, and his eyes were full of greed. Seeing that the Reiatsu of his commander-in-chief was devoured by this young broken face, the death gods were all horrified. There is actually a broken face that can eat the Reiatsu of the commander-in-chief. Is this an illusion created by Aizen using Benyu? Was it specially prepared to seal the Reiatsu of the commander-in-chief? It's horrible, this broken face. Unlike the riots of the death god, all of Po Mian showed excited expressions. In their hearts, as long as someone can stop the death god captain, they can wipe out the death god. Captain Aizen, give an order to kill these gods of death. That's right, kill them, and then use Kongza Town to create the King's Key, and rescue the Spirit King to rule the virtual circle again. The world and hell are also ours. Under the leadership of the Spirit King, we will have a steady stream of similar births. At that time, we will have enough nourishment to improve our level. Just thinking about it makes me excited. A group of broken faces are all existences with insufficient IQ. Although they have successfully evolved from the big virtual form to the tiring form under the action of Bengu, their IQ is not as high as that of the big virtual who broke the face on their own. Court death. After hearing those rude words, the first person who couldn't stand it was Zakagi Kenpachi. As the most belligerent Captain Reaper, Zanpakuto in his hands has long been impatient. Call out. I saw a flash of black light, and the one who was clamoring for the favorite was frozen in an instant. When everyone looked at it, they found that the broken face had lost half of his head. Aizen, it's a waste to keep this kind of miscellaneous soldiers, why don't you let me cut them all down for you? Zanpakuto's voice came from the broken army, and Zanpakuto in his hand didn't sit still when he spoke, slashing the broken approaching him to the ground with a knife like a child. Hey, Zaragi Kenpachi, you're taking yourself too seriously. After Zanpakuto chopped down unknown Zanpakuto, the fourth-ranked Rumian came over from a distance, and blocked Zanpakuto who was chopped by Zaraki Kenpachi with the huge crescent sickle in his hand. I heard that you are the most aggressive among the Death God captains. It just so happens that my hands are itchy too, so I will use you to stop the itching first. Nutra Gilger grinned, slashing back and forth with the crescent scythe in his hand, forcing Zaraki Kenpa who was like a no-man's land back. As a fighting maniac, Zaragi Kenpachi is never timid, especially when he sees an opponent who can resist his attacks several times. His deep desire to fight is immediately aroused. The two sides fought fiercely with one knife and one sickle. It seemed that they wanted to give it a go. When the two fought, they deliberately or unintentionally led the battlefield away from the area where the two sides were located. Among the Death God captains, Komamura Zojun saw that Kenpachi Zaragi had already started, and immediately shouted angrily. East Immortal, your opponent is me, I must fight until you admit your mistake. Zuo Gen, you actually revealed your true face. It seems that you are no longer afraid that your appearance will be ridiculed by the gods of death. Hearing the cry of his former best friend, Dong Xian wanted to let the broken face in front of him clear a passage, and walked slowly to not far from the left formation of Koma village. Although there are several Death God captains here, everyone knows that the defected Toxian can only be the target of Komamura Zojun's capture. Ichigo Kurosaki, our battle is not over yet. Let's have a good fight here. A blue-haired Grimmjow walked out of the faceless army and pointed to Ichigo Kurosaki in the distance. His spiritual pressure kept rising. This time, I won't lose to you again. Kurosaki Ichigo did not show weakness, clenched Zanpakuto in his hand, and charged towards Grimmjow. The two sides touched points, and then collided again. I'll do it first. That kid looks cute, so let me love him well. Tia Halibal, who was ranked third among the 10 blades and was the only woman with a broken face among the 10 blades, came out of the crowd and came straight towards Hitsugaya Toshiro. I'm not a child, I'm the captain of the 13th division of Gote, the 10th division, Hitsugaya Toshiro. I will make you pay for your words and actions just now. With a flick of Zanpakuto in his hand, the ice wings fluttered behind him. Hitsugaya Toshiro and Tia Haribel fought together. Next, Zamali Lulu, the 7th, ranked curse-eyed monk in the 10 blades, found Byakuya Kuchiki. Using his super-fast movement speed, Zomari Lulu pulled Byakuya Kuchiki away from the very beginning. People's eyes. After that, Kiyata Stark, who had a character engraved on his body, and Kiraku Harusui, captain of the 8th division of the Gote 13th division, also began to make tentative attacks on each other. At the same time, when Belegan Ruzin, the 2nd of the 10 blades, was helping Zuozan to look for his target, behind him, a woman's voice entered his ears. 2 strikes to kill. Beat patterning. Belagang, who heard the sound, was not surprised at all, and didn't even turn his head behind him, only to see a thick dead aura suddenly emerge from his body, which was stained on the broken bee that attacked, and instantly let the broken bee stretch out. The death tyrant on the arm that came out had vanished and disappeared. For a moment when the sleeves of the dead bully outfit were rotten, Shattered Bee felt a chill in her heart, and secretly said something bad in her heart. When the death aura was about to rush to her face, another figure rushed out from a distance and pulled her out of the death aura. Covered range. Broken Bee, don't be careless at any time. This is the first commandment training as the captain of the secret mobile unit. Raifeng Yuan Yi put the Broken Bee on the ground. You can see that the right arm of the Broken Bee, which was stained with the deadness of Balagang, has become as thin as dry wood at this time. Up to this point, in the face-breaking army, apart from those face-breaking faces, among the face-breaking faces that came to the world this time, the super face-breaking face that did not take action was left with the 8th-ranked evil concubine of the 10 Blades, Sar Apo Ro Glance, the 10th-ranked beast, Kiba Mi Rialgo. On the Death God's side, all the Death God captains who came to the world have each been targeted by a broken face, and the battle between them cannot end soon. And where is Yamamoto Motoyanagi? Because that young broken face conceals Zenka no Tachi's ability, so Yamamoto Motoyanagi can only rely on his own spiritual power to fight, and what he has to face is he has 2 former captains of the Shinigami, Bakuyu Aizen and Ichi Silvermaru. At this stage, only Lei Luo and Urahara Kazuki are left with Bankai on the death side and can fight against the 10 Blades. Since Urahara Kazuki has been able to keep releasing the hidden barrier of Reiatsu, Jinchuriki column, he will not be able to take action for a while. Fighting, in other words, Lei Luo is the only one who can deal with these 2 super bad faces right now. Chapter 378-Angry Beast, Kiba's Secret. Under the azure blue sky, the Death God and the Po Mian were fighting against their respective opponents. Not only the Po Mian 10 Blades, but even the Po Mian and the Death God had already started a battle. Assassin, around the battlefield, terrifying spiritual pressure erupted in more than a dozen battlefields. No, to be precise, those spiritual pressures were not only terrifying, but also took away a famous Death God, a killing weapon that only broke the face. This is the war between the God of Death and the Broken Face, a game of being killed and killing each other at any time. Urahara Kazuki, your mission is to protect the enchantment Jinchuriki column, and you mustn't let Aizen discover that the real Kuzucho has been transferred to the Soul World. Yamamoto Motoyanagi, China looked at the 2 sides who were fighting each other, put away Ryujin Jaka, and passed his eyes towards Urahara Kazuki. In the face of his former subordinates, although Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saijokuni did not take it to heart, but he could not use Zanpakudo for the time being, and after all, he could not simply kill the 2 captain-level Shinigami of Grandmaster Bankai. Urahara Kazuki is so smart. After seeing Yamamoto Motoyanagi's eyes, he immediately understood what he wanted to express, and immediately jumped out of the battlefield, but he did not fall into the ground, otherwise, Yilin Dai's ingenuity will definitely find some clues. Captain, now that Captain Reaper is all entangled, and your Zenka no Tachi can't be used, this situation is very unfavorable for you. Aizen said with a smile. In those eyes, there seems to be a new plan that is constantly being planned. The 13th team of the Guardian was once a powerful force. In the virtual circle, the gods of death were arbitrarily dispatched in the present world, and they kept beheading the virtual for the reason of maintaining the balance of the souls of the dead. All of this is all thanks to the gods of death who can Bankai in the 13th team of the Guardian. The virtual flash is definitely in existence with the advantage of beheading. However, in the face of Captain Reaper who can use Bankai, Daxu's virtual flash is not so effective. After all, any Bankai can increase their spiritual pressure by 3 to 4 times. If they are given time to familiarize themselves with Bankai, it will enhance Bankai's ability. Then after Bankai, it will not be a problem to increase the spiritual pressure more than 10 times. When it comes to Bankai, we have to mention Zanpakudo. As the most important battle item of the Gotei 13th team, every member of the Gotei 13th team will get a **** called a shallow punch when they become apprentices of death. All light hits are the same, but in the process of the death god gradually understanding his own abilities and denying and approving his own abilities, light hitting will slowly resonate with the soul of the holder, until the resonance with the soul of the holder reaches a certain level. After that, the shallow hit will become Zanpakuto. It is also at this time that the god of death will obtain the Shikai of Zanpakuto. After that, as the use of Shikai continues to deepen, the god of death will have a more comprehensive understanding of his own soul. To a certain extent, the power in the god of death will be obtained. The release, which is manifested on Zanpakuto, is the so-called Bankai. However, these seemingly same strengthening modes as Hell's Blame are actually completely different inside. Hell's Blame can only release the abilities in his soul through constant torture, while death does rely on the precipitation of time and self-identification and denial. It's just this difference, but the strength of the blame and the god of death is vastly different. After all, although suffering is painful, it is indeed something that everyone can experience, but it is not something that everyone can do to recognize oneself and deny oneself. This is the reason why death, although nominally the ruler of the virtual circle, the world, and even hell, has never truly ruled the three places. It is too difficult to appear as a captain of the god of death. Every captain of the god of death is an extremely important wealth in the soul society. Dear gods of death, your failure is inevitable. Surrender. After seeing the spirit queen, Aizen-sama might be able to go around one of you. The person who spoke was Kiba Mi Realgo, the 10th ranked beast of the 10 blades. Unlike other broken faces, Kibami's initial strength was not the strongest, but his ability growth was the most terrifying. The angry beast Kiba Mi, his 10-blade ability is called anger. As the name suggests, the more he is attacked in battle, the higher his anger value will be, and the Reiatsu will also be terrifying, until he finally surpasses the enemy and kills the enemy. Until. Hey, Sao Paulo, let's do it too. These gods of death obviously won't understand the kindness of Aizen-sama. Hey. When Kiba Mi was proud, a god of death suddenly stepped in front of him, and the Zanpakuto in his hand slashed down against his chest. Sleeve Snow. Kuchiki Rukia. Many of the dead gods were surprised. Although Kuchiki Rukia's strength is good, she will definitely not be the opponent of Kiba Mi, one of the 10 blades. As expected, Zanpakuto in Kuchiki Rukia's hand slashed down and slashed on Kibami's shoulder, and even Kibami's skin failed to make a white mark. However, his blow made Kiba Mi very happy, because Kibami's body obviously became a little taller after being slashed this time. Little god of death, aren't you full? You don't even have the strength to kill someone. Kiba laughed loudly and reached out to Kuchiki Rukia. -50 degrees. At the moment when Kiba Mi was about to catch her, Kuchiki Rukia whispered, and saw that a layer of ice crystals formed on the surface of her body, and the ice crystals spread along the Zanpakuto in her hand, before Kibami's right hand touched him. Freeze Kibami's entire body into an ice sculpture. Kiba's secret. Under everyone's attention, Kiba Mi was wrapped in ice and fell to the ground, and from everyone's perception, it seemed that the Reiatsu on Kiba Mi also disappeared in the moment when it was frozen. Everyone looked at Kuchiki Rukia in shock, and it was incredible that she killed a 10-blade level shaman as soon as she shot. Clack clack. Just when everyone thought that Kiba Mi would fall to pieces, a sound of ice cubes shattering came from under everyone's feet. Accompanied by an uneasy Reiatsu, Kibami's body grew bigger again, and the sound of ice cubes shattered. Zhang jumped up, and in the blink of an eye came to Kuchiki Rukia. Your ability is very good, but you can't kill Master Kiba Mi. With your Reiatsu, Master Kiba Mi has become much stronger. As a reward for what you've done, Mr. Kiba Mi is ready to take you home in person. At this time, Kibami's body is 7 or 8 times the size of an ordinary person, and the palm is also the same. At the moment when Kuchiki Rukia didn't react, Kibami's right hand almost grabbed him. No one would doubt whether Kiba Mi at this time could directly crush Kuchiki Rukia's small body. Whoa! When everyone was ready to observe a moment of silence, a golden light flashed, and a blood hole was drilled directly out of Kiba's thick palm. After the golden light penetrated Kibami's palm, the remaining power remained unabated, and finally hit Salapalo. Sorry, Kuchiki Rukia can't die yet. Lei Luo's voice came from a distance. His body was covered with armor made of hard ice, and the whole body was covered with a layer of golden light, which made him look particularly eye-catching. It's Lei Luo, the new agent of death, who is also the captain who can take Zanpakudo Bankai. He actually launched an attack directly on the two 10 blades. It seems that he is preparing for 1 versus 2. I heard that he subdued the provincial minister Jiro with one move. His strength should be quite terrifying. 1v should be no problem. Chapter 379_Spike. Boom boom boom. Accompanied by a loud bang, countless black flickers flew from a distance, and at the moment of contact with the enemy, all of them exploded, causing ripples in the sky. That is the skill of Koyatai Stark, who ranks first in the 10 blades, returning to the blade, Infinite Phantom. You are really unfriendly. The explosion that lasted for most of the day finally stopped, and Lei Luo was surrounded by many gods of death who were lucky enough to escape. What? How is this possible? That's Mr. Stark's ultimate skill. As the spiritual pressure in the air gradually stabilized, many of the broken faces who saw the scene in front of them all widened their eyes, showing unbelievable expressions. Kiba's secret was also hit by a series of phantom flashes just now, but Stark's control of his phantom flashes has reached ultimate, so the spiritual pressure contained in these phantom flashes is superimposed, which is just enough to bear in Kiba's secret. Within the range. Looking at Kiba Mi, who is already huge in the air, nearly 100 meters tall, many gods of death were all startled, even Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saijokuni, who was attacked by Aizen and Ichi Silvermaru at the same time, couldn't help but look over. This terrifying Reiatsu. Ha ha ha. Stark, thank you for your help. I feel so comfortable now. Kiba's secret speech was deafening, and it shocked several death gods who were not lightly injured in an instant. Don't get carried away, complete the task given by Aizen-sama. Stark raised his hand and brushed aside the stray strands of hair on his forehead. If Aizen didn't secretly transmit his voice to him just now, asking him to help Kiba Mi improve his combat power, he would be too lazy to use Infinite Phantom to increase Kiba Mi's spiritual pressure. Now that the mission has been completed, Stark raised the jet black pistol in his hand, and there were dozens of phantom flashes at Jingle Chunchui who was about to attack him. Lei Luo was also helpless. His original intention was to solve the other party as soon as possible before Kiba's secret ability was fully released, but with Stark's participation, his wishful thinking had obviously failed. At this time, in front of Lei Luo, in addition to the angry beast Kiba Mi, who was nearly 100 meters tall, there was also Salapalo Glands, who was called the Evil Concubine. Kiba's secret is that after taking a huge amount of damage, he can convert the damage he has suffered into his own spiritual pressure. As long as the attack is within his bearing range, the spiritual pressure of Kiba's secret can increase infinitely, and with his own spiritual pressure as the spiritual pressure continues to grow, the attack intensity he can withstand will gradually become stronger, and eventually he can even reach a state where he ignores all attacks and is invincible. The Evil Concubine, Sarapalo Glands, was originally the 0th blade in the Broken Face ranking, but in order to study the perfect life to complete the power of conception notification, he divided his body into 2, resulting in the strength degenerates into an Achuka's class Great Virtual, and thus the 10 blade sequence is proposed. It was not until after he became informed by conception that he successfully returned to the 10 blades and became the number 8 10 blades. As expected of an existence at the level of Captain Death, he was able to rescue so many young people unscathed in Stark's Infinite Phantom Flash. Salapalo's voice is very special, with some sissy tones. At first glance, Lei Luo instinctively got goosebumps. Thinking of this guy's abilities, Lei Luo regretted participating in this battle for a while. His enemy should be the God of Death. After all, only the God of Death can protect the Spirit King. Aizen's goal seems to be the same as that of Lei Luo, both to enter the Spirit King Palace and find the Spirit King. But by chance, Lei Luo became the deputy God of Death, and even a fighter of the god of death to deal with Aizen. What is this all about? Lei Luo was speechless, as if things were getting more and more deviated from his original idea. But it's useless to think about these now. After all, the one who broke the face has already identified him as the enemy, so as the two opposing sides, this battle is unavoidable. Looking at the glass-like golden light on Lei Luo's body, Sal Apollo frowned slightly, his right hand moved quietly behind his back twice, and a faint purple light fell to the ground. Under the cover of the shadow of the house and the broken walls, the purple shadow silently touched the place behind Lei Luo, and when the two sides confronted, it quietly shot behind Lei Luo. Sar Apollo was overjoyed. As long as he was contacted by the luling insect, then Lei Luo's battle data would be mastered by him in a very short time. At that time, he who mastered the opponent's intelligence would be the first to ascend to the commanding heights of victory. It's just that things didn't follow his mind so easily. The moment the luling insect approached Lei Luo, the golden light on Lei Luo's body suddenly lit up, and then the luling insect turned into purple gas and disappeared into the air. The golden light on that layer is not only amazing in defense, but can also cause damage to objects that come into contact with the golden light. Sar Apollo thought silently in his heart. As a researcher, his fighting method was to collect information on the opponent as much as possible, and then analyze the method to defeat the opponent. Lei Luo had already noticed Sal Apollo's small movements, but he was self-sufficient, so Lei Luo didn't pay attention to the lure bugs who were bullying him. Now that Sal Apollo was thinking about it, Renault immediately understood that the other party was evaluating the battle data just obtained. Have you ever been hit by a bullet made of spirits? Lei Luo slowly raised his right hand and pointed his index finger to Sal Apollo. What did you say? Sar Apollo thought he had auditory hallucinations. Could the bullets composed of spiritual suns be more powerful than the virtual flash of the Vastord class Daxu? He is an existence that can even make a virtual flash. Are you kidding? Sal Apollo put his forehead in his hand and laughed loudly, but his eyes were extremely cold. Bounce. Lei Luo made an onomatopoeia, and the next moment, golden light condensed on his fingertips and burst out. With the wide-eyed Sal Apollo falling into the sky, the scene was extremely peaceful. Kiba Mi, who was on the side, suddenly saw his companion fall, and immediately reached out to catch Sar Apollo's body. When he took him to examine it carefully, he found that Sar Apollo was silent. That's right, Sal Apollo just died. When he despised Lei Luo's attack, it was already doomed that he would turn into dust in this attack. I'm going to kill you. Take off your bones one by one. Kiba Mi, who is nearly 100 meters tall, raised his huge palm, wrapped in a suffocating spiritual pressure, and patted Lei Luo's place. Under the shadow, only the golden light on Lei Luo's body was still shining. Regarding the death of Sal Apollo, Kiba Mi's heart did not waver at all, but when Lei Luo killed Sal Apollo in front of so many people, he was hitting 10 blades in the face, which was enough to arouse Kiba Mi's heart of anger. Chapter 380 _ The situation is changeable. Dragon Rack. Facing Kiba Mi's attack, Lei Luo snorted lightly, and clenched his right hand in the air. Zanpakuto after changing his form appeared out of thin air, and the tip of his sword pointed directly at Kiba Mi's palm. The temperature in the air dropped sharply. With Lei Luo as the center, countless water vapor appeared in the air, and in a second, it condensed into ice cubes, following the direction of the tip of Hirinmaru's sword, facing the huge palm that was about to fall in the air. Crack clap. As far as the eye can see, Kiba Mi's outstretched palm was quickly covered with ice cubes, and the ice cubes continued to spread along Kiba Mi's arms toward his whole body. Before long, Kiba's massive body was bound in ice. After doing all this, Lei Luo clapped his hands and put away Hirinmaru again. He used Hirinmaru's Bankai for the first time, and the effect was quite satisfactory to him. Judging from his calm appearance, it was as if Kiba Mi was just a lamb to be slaughtered in his eyes. Kiba Mi, what the hell are you doing? A loud shout came from a distance, and it was Stark who was fighting with Jingle Chunsui again. Crack clap. The sound of ice cubes cracking sounded. Kiba, who thought he had been frozen to death, broke through the ice cubes and walked out, and his body soared nearly 10 meters again at the moment when the ice cubes were broken. Roar. Roaring furiously, Kiba Mi shook off the ice layer on her body and looked at Lei Luo with fire-breathing eyes. Boy, do you think Mr. Kiba Mi is as easy to die as that bastard Sal Apollo? You are so naive. Virtual bullets. In the roar, Kiba Mi stretched out his hands, and opened his fingers to face Lei Luo. A pitch-black Reiatsu ball shaped like a phantom flashed on his fingertips, and then shot Lei Luo sharply. Void Bullet is a skill that condenses Reiatsu to surpass the enemy's attack. Although the power is not as powerful as Void Flash, its speed is 20 times that of Void Flash. This skill is also Kiba Mi's favorite move. Boom boom boom. Amidst the bursts of explosions, Kiba showed an excited smile. It seemed that only by constantly attacking Lei Luo with virtual bullets could make him feel less anger in his heart. And Lei Luo is within the attack range of the virtual bullet. Although he can use the golden mask to resist this weak attacking move, it is too shocking to the world, and it will make the personnel of the death party pay too much attention to him. So he just relied on his own speed of light to constantly shuttle between virtual bullets. Boy, see how long you can hide. With a virtual bullet like this, in the current state of Mr. Kiba Mi, it will not be a problem to last for several hours. Watching me exhaust you to death. Wow haha. Kiba laughed loudly. In his eyes, Lei Luo was as embarrassed as a monkey chased by a hunter. Do you know what the speed of light is? Although the sound of virtual bullets exploding in his ears, Lei Luo's voice was still very strangely transmitted to the ears of the people around him. As soon as the voice fell, Lei Luo's figure suddenly disappeared in the shadow of the virtual bullet, and in the blink of an eye, Lei Luo reappeared in the air. What the hell is he doing? The god of death who has been paying attention here is puzzled, and then at the next moment, Kiba Mi's constantly used virtual bullets stopped, and his head also tilted to the side of his body as if he had suffered a serious injury, while driving his body. Kiba Mi is down. Strange, what happened just now? Why did this huge broken face suddenly collapse? The god of death was even more confused when they saw this, because in their eyes, Lei Luo just disappeared for a moment. Could it be that at that moment, Lei Luo used some kind of skill to kill the angry number 0 broken face? Look. Everyone heard the sound and saw that on the fallen Kiba Mi's head, there was a small hole in the temple. Judging from its size, it was just enough to put down an adult's fist. If it weren't for the fact that some of the gods of death hadn't observed Kiba Mi's body more carefully, I'm afraid such a small hole would only be regarded as a normal hole in his body. When did it come out? At this moment, Lei Luo's previous words resounded unconsciously in everyone's milk. Do you know what the speed of light is? This speed completely surpassed Shunpo, and everyone could not imagine that a death god with such an advantage in speed could have any other attack that could threaten his life safety. Perhaps the wound on Kiba Mi's head was not caused at one time, but his attack speed was too fast, and we didn't capture his movements. Realizing that the opponent's powerful face-breaking army subconsciously took a few steps back, he wanted to stay away from Lei Luo's side, the current Lei Luo. In their eyes, it is synonymous with death. In just a few minutes, Lei Luo had already killed the No 8 and number 010 blades. When the other death god captains were still struggling to win or lose with the others in the 10 blades, Lei Luo was alone, and he solved his opponent early, and it was still a 1 versus 2 situation. The situation on the battlefield changed rapidly. The original Broken Face Corps had a huge advantage in numbers in this battle, not only in the number of captain-level strengths, but even ordinary Broken Faces at least possessed the strength of the vice-captain of Death God. In addition to each of the subordinate officers of the 10-blade and Broken Face, in terms of quality and quantity, the Death God side has no advantage at all. The only reassuring pill in the hearts of many Shinigami is Yamamoto Motoyanagi, but after Aizen used Bengu, he was completely as good as Yamamoto Motoyanagi in spiritual pressure, and even sealed Yamamoto in Prince of Fire Eater. After the Zanpakudo of Genyanagi Saijiguni, the blue die holding Zanpakudo actually suppressed the old man Yamamoto. Although many gods of death still have hope for victory in this battle, in their hearts, no one will think that the victory of this battle will come easily, and even they and even the captain of the god of death have already sacrificed several captain-level gods of death. Prepare. It was at this time that Lei Luo's performance gave everyone the hope of an easy victory. With the help of Lei Luo, now the numerical advantage of the 10 blades has disappeared, and on the death god's side, with Lei Luo's strength, it is enough to easily face all the remaining broken faces. At the moment when Kiba Mi fell, the situation became full of advantages for death's side. Lei Luo, I don't need you to do anything, go and help the captain. Shuru Yukitake led his opponent to Lei Luo's side at some point, and when he passed by Lei Luo, he turned his head and asked Lei Luo. With this turn of his head, the 30th blade, who was fighting with him, caught the gap in his defense, and a water blade slashed through, smashing the death tyrant on Shuru's chest, and leaving a mark on his chest. There was a deep wound, and the blood splattered most of Yuhi's chest of the 30th blade. Sister Yu. Shiruro Yukitake's injury did not move Lei Luo in the slightest. As far as Lei Luo knew, Shiruro Yukitake's body was the right arm of the Spirit King, and it was not an existence that could easily die. However, under the attention of so many death god captains, if he sees death and will not save it, it is really unreasonable. Now that he has become a death god, he will pretend to the end, and then generously save a death god captain. Let him. It is also very good that the old man Yamamoto has a firmer trust in him. Chapter 381 _ Catch My Sister Alive. Without hesitation, Lei Luo crossed his hands in front of him, little golden light appeared around him, and slowly gathered in his palm. 8 feet Joan Tomo. Following Lei Luo's soft drink, an 8-sided golden light mirror flew out from his palm, and the golden light radiated in all directions, madly shooting towards the 30 blade in the distance. 1, 2, 3. A dozen. In just 10 seconds, the whole body of the 30th blade was completely filled with light bullets. Scorching currents. The 30th blade was startled by the light bullets that surrounded him, turned his right hand, and immediately spewed out a steaming water-quality shield wall from the weapon in his hand. Chi. Countless light bombs followed, and Ji Lingling hit the water wall, instantly shattering the water shield wall. Lei Luo, thank you. Shuru Yukitake took advantage of the 30th blade to be blocked by the light bullet, and came to Lei Luo's side in a blink of an eye, and thanked Lei Luo with his hands on his chest. Captain Floating Bamboo is all comrades in the same camp, and it is appropriate to help each other. He smiled back at the latter's thanks, and then Lei Luo turned to look at the 30th blade again. At this time, Tia Halibal had broken free from the attack of Tomo, and was looking at Lei Luo with a livid face. The new acting Grim Reaper. Tia Halibal had doubts in her tone. According to the latest information from the Soul Realm, the Death God had indeed appointed a new Death God agent, but due to time reasons, there was almost nothing about the abilities and skills of the new Death God agent. Intelligence was collected. Yes, I am the new agent of death. Lei Luo replied without hesitation, and looked at Sister Yu opposite with interest. I have to say that, as a virtual, Tia Haribel's figure is quite good after her face is broken. Her wheat-colored skin is quite in line with Lei Luo's taste, and her clothes are so hot that it reminds Lei Luo of it. Hancock, the female emperor of the pirate world, although the latter's appearance is slightly inferior, it is not much worse after all. Your strength is very good. Tia Haribel knew in her heart that if she wanted to kill Shuru Yukitake, she had to pass the level of Lei Luo first. Without any hesitation, Tia Haribel stretched out her right hand and pointed the queen shark in her hand towards Lei Luo, and then a water arrow shot straight from the tip of the sword, hitting Lei Luo in an instant. Clack clack. At the moment when the water arrow was about to touch Lei Luo's skin, a cold light lit up, the water arrow froze in response, and then turned into pieces of shattered ice and fell into the sky. Lei Luo, who owns Higher Inmaru, is a natural nemesis to deal with this kind of water attack. Feeling the surging power in his body, Lei Luo's face was full of smiles. Since he learned the Bankai of Higher Inmaru, he has clearly felt the growth of his own strength, especially after holding the Higher Inmaru and entering the Bankai state, the violent power in the body plus, it can actually affect other abilities of Lei Luo's master. Hey, Lei Luo, be careful, this broken face is not easy to deal with. Looking at the smile on Lei Luo's face, Shiro Yukitake paused and said. Got it. Ah. Facing the answer given by Lei Luo, Shiro Yukitake had a black line on his forehead. He had suffered a loss in the opponent's hands before, but now he said that the opponent's strength was not weak. However, Lei Luo didn't have the heart to think about this at all. He believed that he knew better than every death god present on the battle strength of each of the 10 blades. Although the 30th blade is a woman, her strength is definitely not weak. On the contrary, her strength is definitely ranked in the top 5 of the 10 blades. Like Kiba Mi and Sal Apollo that Lei Luo had killed before, they were no match for Tia Halibal at all. So Yukitake Shiro said that is not a quibble for himself. After all, the truth is exactly what he said. It's just that Tia Halibal's opponent now is Lei Luo. With Lei Luo's strength, even facing the number 1 Stark will not be too uncomfortable, not to mention that the strength is much weaker than Stark. She is. While Tia Halibal was still thinking about how to attack Lei Luo had turned into golden light and disappeared beside Yukitake Shiro. Then, in Tia Halibal's surprised eyes, Lei Luo appeared in front of her, and the Higher Inmaru in her hand exuded deadly cold air, and slashed her body in an instant. Clack clack. Lei Luo's shot was measured, and because he didn't want to kill the 30th blade, he didn't use his full strength in this attack. I saw that Higher Inmaru's blade was covered with a layer of ice crystals. When it hit Tia Halibal, the ice crystals on the blade spread rapidly, instantly freezing half of Tia Halibal's body. Conquer him, Empress Shark. Struggling, Tia Halibal struggled to spit out a few syllables. With the sudden surge of spiritual pressure, the ice layer covering her body instantly cracked, and the queen shark in his hand also changed during the surge of spiritual pressure. Form. Battle Shizuku. After trying hard to control the queen shark in her hand, Tia Halibal swayed her weapon with difficulty. With the pattern of the queen shark's sword-like shark gills, most of the water cannonballs spewed out. Lei Luo turned into golden light and retreated slightly into the distance. Hoo. While panting, a large amount of water vapor spread around Tia Halibal, blocking her return to the blade. Ruo Ruoxiong, Lei Luo saw Tia Halibal's clothes through the water vapor. It was hotter than before, only the key parts were covered with white bone, and almost all of the entire body was exposed. As Daxu, he has long lost the sense of shame of a human being. In order to facilitate the battle, Tia Halibal will not hesitate to return to the blade with a clean body. Suppressing the shock in her heart, Tia Halibal, who had returned to the back of the blade, was guarding Lei Luo with her entire body, fearing that Lei Luo would suddenly disappear and suddenly attack her as before. Yes, I am very satisfied with you. Lei Luo looked at Tia Halibal hidden in the water vapor through Yuhi's eyes, and made the above comments on her outfit. Then the awesome Sharingan was used by Lei Luo in this situation. If the Hokage people knew about this situation, they would probably despise Lei Luo for a while. Tia Halibal naturally noticed the difference in Lei Luo's eyes, but as the actual native of death, he would not know about Sharingan. Under the cover of water vapor, Tia Halibal began to prepare her strongest attack moves. Most of her attacks used water as an attack method, which was restrained in front of Lei Luo, which was in the battle just now. She already knew Akatsuki in the middle. In order to crack the spiritual pressure of Lei Luo's ice system, Tia Halibal can only accumulate a large amount of spiritual pressure and increase the temperature of the water used for attack. Ice can freeze water, but hot water can also melt ice. Broken waterfall. A huge stream of water Jinchuriki column broke through and the water vapor shot towards Lei Luo rapidly. The warm temperature made the rushing water Jinchuriki column continue to generate a lot of steam as it moved forward, as if the whole sky was about to be engulfed by this hot water. Boiled in general. It's too slow. Lei Luo shook his head. Such an attack was really not enough for him. I saw Lei Luo turned into golden light and disappeared when the hot water was still far away. Harabel, I'll give you two choices. First, I will let you go. Second, become my subordinate, and I will make you the ruler of the virtual circle, the world of corpses, and even this world. Chapter 382_Persuade to Surrender. Looking at Lei Luo who suddenly appeared behind her, Tia Halibel almost forgot any thought. The temperature of the water vapor around her body was absolutely unbearable for most people, but Lei Luo was able to stand in it leisurely. In addition, what made Tia Halibel feel that she was hallucinating even more was what Lei Luo said. To rule the virtual circle, and even the world of corpses, in this world. She, who has been struggling to survive in the virtual circle, has no interest in whether she can become a ruler, but this does not mean that Tia Harabel doesn't want to try Lei Luo's proposal. Especially after seeing Lei Luo's super speed, she believed that even Aizen, who had rescued her, would never be able to match the strength shown by Lei Luo. Being your subordinate, how can I become the ruler of the virtual circle and even the present world? Tia Harabel stared at Lei Luo's eyes, and in those bloody Yuhi's pupils, 9 tomo were clearly visible. I'm just a passerby in this world. When I get what I'm looking for, I will leave this world. At that time, as my subordinate, I will make you the master of this world. 9 tomo swirled in Lei Luo's eyes, causing Tia Harabel, who was staring at Lei Luo's eyes, to be in a trance. Exit through a gate of the void. I choose to be your subordinate. Tia Harabel came back to her senses and said firmly. Even if she has no idea of ruling the whole world, being able to become the ruler of this world means that she no longer has to worry about the threat of death. Lei Luo, are you crazy? She has a bad face. Everything before was seen by Fuzu in the distance, and when he saw Lei Luo subduing a broken face as his subordinate, he immediately roared. Isn't the essence of the broken face and the god of death not the soul of the dead? It's just a different form. You should know this better than me, right? The right arm of the Spirit King. Lei Luo turned his head to look at Shiruro Yukitaki, and the last sentence was almost word by word. How did you know? Shiruro Yukitaki's eyes were full of shock. He was the right arm of the Spirit King, and only a few death god captains knew about Akatsuki. This is an absolute taboo in the soul world. I know a lot more than you think, but I advise you not to talk about it, especially in front of Captain Yamamoto. Lei Luo looked relaxed. 9 tomo Rinnegan activated. Shiruro Yukitaki lost his mind for a moment, and when he regained consciousness, he no longer looked towards Lei Luo. What did you do to him? Tia Harabel looked curiously as her master dealt with Captain Death in front of him. In her thoughts, Lei Luo is an agent of the God of Death, and should be in the same faction as the captain of the God of Death, but judging from the current situation, it seems that she thinks of Lei Luo too simply. It's nothing, it's just to make him agree with my statement. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. If you hadn't made him seriously injured, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to change his mind so easily. Complimenting his subordinates at the right time has become a habit of Lei Luo. Master, am I going to call you that? Well, that's right. We've never met, and you don't know anything about my experience. Why did you choose me to be your subordinate? Who told you I didn't know anything about your experience? Lei Luo looked at Tia Halibel with interest, and the look in her eyes seemed to have mastered Tia Halibel's entire body. That's such a confident look. Tia Harabel was lost again. Tia Harabel, who had awakened her wisdom from the killing circle that devoured each other in the virtual circle, had never felt the feeling of trust in such a real way. In her earliest memories, companions would only use each other, and everything had only interests. Those so-called companions and subordinates were all tools used as shields in times of crisis. Even if there is no danger, as long as the time is right, you can always abandon the so-called companions and subordinates for the sake of status and strength. What she has always felt in the virtual circle is the above situation. Although she doesn't understand or agree with the above situation in the depths of her heart, but the general environment is like this, she can't change it, so she can only go downstream. It wasn't until Aizen rescued her and raised the strength of the subordinate officers who followed her that she had a status and strength, and then she had the ability to change that evil situation. Since becoming the 30th Blade, she has been trying her best to protect the 3 subordinate officers under her. Time and time again, she finally made her 3 subordinate officers agree with her idea. Companions and subordinates are beings who can give their backs to each other. Looking at Lei Luo's gaze at this time, Tia Haribel suddenly felt that her thoughts were already known by the other party, and Lei Luo chose to make him a subordinate probably because of her thoughts. "Thank you," Tia Haribel murmured softly, her heart full of joy. "Tia Haribel, Aizen-sama knows you can't be trusted." Just when Tia Haribel lost her mind, behind her, the black cavity appeared again, and a broken face with 2 black vertical lines on his cheek jumped out of the black cavity, and the white short knife in his hand slashed violently. Down, it was about to cut Tia Haribel in half. "My subordinates, except me, no one else can move." The golden light flashed, and Lei Luo appeared on the back of Tia Haribel, with the weapon in his hand running on the bar, blocking the attack of the person who came. "Ulquiorra, you finally appeared." At the moment when the second person appeared, Lei Luo had already recognized the villain who was no less popular than the protagonist in this anime. If you say Lei Luo's favorite villain in the Shinigami anime, besides Aizen, the second place is Ulquiorra. So when he was about to kill Tia Haribel, Lei Luo did not counterattack directly, but used his speed to stop his fatal blow. In Lei Luo's heart, he still wanted to bring Ulquiorra to his side. Not only because of the opponent's strength, but also because of the opponent's position in his heart. "You know me." Ulquiorra was a little surprised. Although he had heard about the Death God agent in front of him, the 2 sides had never met, but the other party could call him by name as soon as he came up, which made him have no interest in things at all. A hint of curiosity. "Of course I know it. The only one of the 10 blades of the broken face uses the second stage return blade." Looking at the opponent, Lei Luo made a surprising statement again, causing both Tia Haribel and Ulquiorra to widen their eyes. Chapter 383-Ulquiola. Ulquiorra was originally ordered to guard the Void Knight Palace in the Void Circle, but when he was patrolling around, he suddenly felt the call of Aizen, so he immediately opened the world where Haichi came. However, as soon as he came over, he found Tia Haribel who was about to betray, and when he made his move, he heard many amazing words from Lei Luo. He is the only one of the 10 blades who can return to the second stage. This secret, apart from creating his Aizen, he believes that even other people who have broken the face of the 10 blades at the same time will not know Akatsuki. What is the origin of this person? Judging from his appearance, he seems to be from the side of the god of death, but where did he get the information from? Ulquiorra didn't say anything on the surface. In fact, he had begun to have doubts in his heart. This was an exceptional state of mind for him, who represented the despair of mankind. No matter who you are, trying to instigate Aizen-sama's subordinates is absolutely unforgivable. "Block it, Black Wing Demon," Ulquiorra said coldly. The weapon was instantly released, the spiritual pressure skyrocketed, and black spiritual pressure raindrops fell from the sky, but before contacting the god of death in the air, they disappeared without a trace. Behind it, a pair of black spiritual light wings growing behind it, jet black wings were big enough to cover the sky. On the top of his head, 2 sharp horns resembling demons slowly grew, and the tear marks on his cheeks also became thicker and deeper. Probing out, the black nails have turned into sharp claws, and down, a pair of legs and feet that are completely different from human beings are looming under the cover of the robe. The dark spiritual pressure overflowed from the white robe, and it lasted like a dark fog, but all the gods of death with enough spiritual pressure could clearly perceive the thick despair emanating from Ulquiorra's body at this moment. Breath. Ah, so powerful, we have no chance of winning. The chief captain was restrained by Aizen, and the captains were also in a tough fight. After all, our death gods have failed, and Saranjay will soon be over. Ha ha ha, Court's soul realm is over. Death god has finally lost to Shu. Many spirits of death roared in pain, and their inner despair had been released by the Reiatsu emanating from Ulquiorra. At this time, their hearts are already full of despair, and it may not take too long before they will be defeated by their inner despair, lose themselves and become evil spirits, or simply lead to self-determination under the guidance of despair. Humph! Even a faceless man dares to play with people's hearts in front of this old man. A heavy and old voice resounded throughout the battlefield, accompanied by a stream of heat pouring into the hearts of many half-lost gods of death. Numerous gods of death suddenly woke up, looked at each other left and right, and found that most of the companions around were holding weapons on their necks. Captain Yamamoto. What happened to me just now? Why did you suddenly turn Fei Liuhu towards myself? Just a little bit, I'll be swallowed by the darkness in my heart and lose myself. These gods of death all felt the chills in their hearts, and when they looked at Ulquiorra who was confronting Lei Luo, their eyes were already filled with deep fear. Yamamoto Motoyanagi, although he rescued many Shinigami who were infected by Ulquiorra's spiritual pressure by releasing his spiritual pressure, he was successfully attacked by Aizen, who had been staring at him, and his back was attacked by Aizen. Aizen slashed a knife, and after Aizen, the fire-eating Prince Wanda Wise bit the left arm of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saijokuni. Lei Luo was also shocked by Ulquiorra's performance. In the original book, Ulquiorra did not show his return blade when there were many people, and Lei Luo only judged his ability to return to the blade from his battle with the protagonist. In the original anime, Ulquiorra's return blade mainly increases his speed, defense and attack power. Even in a state of returning to the blade, these three attributes of Ulquiorra have surpassed Benkai's state. Kurosaki Ichigo. You know, in the original anime, the most intuitive performance of Kurosaki Ichigo's Benkai is that he can greatly increase his speed, attack and defense. Then, increase attack speed. The skill trick is Moon Kiba Sky Chong, which is a move to increase attack power. It can be said that the creator of the original anime has given Ulquiorra the best Benkai ability that he thinks. If we exclude the protagonist's various plugins, we can even think that Ulquiorra surpasses the protagonist Kurosaki Ichigo in Benkai ability. Even in the original anime, the protagonist Kurosaki Ichigo finally killed the 40th blade in front of him only after he opened his own plugin. And now, what Lei Luo has to face is Ulquiorra in such a state, and even judging from the surrounding situation, maybe Ulquiorra after returning to the blade is not only good in singles, but maybe better than him in group battles. The one-on-one match will make the gods of death a headache. The Gun of Thunder. After Ulquiorra returned to the blade, the sense of despair in his heart became stronger. At the same time, his spiritual pressure became much more terrifying than before. In the state of returning to the blade, everything around him has nothing to do with him. Even the face-breaking army of the same faction. Looking at Lei Luo and Hannibal in front of him, his heart did not fluctuate. The dark spiritual pressure gradually condensed into the shape of a spear in his palm, and at the moment when it formed with the spear, he threw it towards Lei Luo in the distance with his bare hands. Although the target of Ulquiorra's attack this time is only Lei Luo and Hannibal, but because the Reiatsu contained in the Thunder Spear is extremely terrifying, if his attack breaks out on the battlefield, it will only be Reiatsu. The shock wave that erupted was not only able to kill people on the death side in seconds. Run away. Ulquiorra is mad. Damn it. This guy doesn't distinguish between me and enemies, or we are not at all concerned by him. You know what you are, Ulquiorra in the state of the Black-Winged Demon, but he doesn't recognize his 6 relatives, maybe except for Aizen-sama. He will only think that it is a kind of gift for that person when he kills everyone in this state. Release. The face-breaking army that was fighting against the god of death scurried into the distance, causing many gods of death to be stunned. However, after seeing the terrifying black flash of spiritual pressure, these gods of death made the same thing as the face-breaking army at the same time. Choice. Escape. The god of death and the broken face, who were still fighting endlessly, were surprisingly unanimous in their choices when faced with the death-threatening thunder spear. Although Hannibal was still standing behind Lei Luo, her heart was actually very anxious. After all, although the 10 blades were often at odds with each other, they still had some understanding of each other's abilities. Master, let's dodge a little bit. As far as I know, Thunder Spear is the strongest attacking skill that Ulquiorra can use when he returns to the blade, and its power is enough to kill a Captain Death head-on. Oh, then which one of his moves and your most powerful move has a higher attack power? Lei Luo turned his head with a smile, implying that Hannibal showed off his most powerful attacking skills. Chapter 384 Battle of the Name. Facing Lei Luo, Hannibal was stunned for a moment, then reacted immediately. Master, do you want me to take on Ulquiorra? Yeah, for some reason, I've always been curious about how your 10 blades are ranked, because in the information I know, your strength doesn't seem to be stronger than Ulquiorra, even excluding his 2 Duanguiran. Lei Luo was too lazy to lie, so he just said what was in his heart, although Hannibal might feel uncomfortable doing so. Since the master has such a question, then I will show my strength. My sword has long been hungry. Hannibal was naturally displeased with Lei Luo's statement, but his words were useless, and he had to show his ability to be convincing enough. Broken Waterfall. Now that he had decided to make a move, Hannibal didn't stop. He came to Lei Luo in 2 steps, and the long white knife in his hand slashed diagonally. With the huge waves surging, boundless water vapor came out from the shark's gills in the mountains behind the emperor. Rolled towards the thunder spear. Chi. The 2 forces collided between Lei Luo and Ulquiorra, and there was no violent explosion as expected. The thunder spear had the absolute upper hand at the beginning, easily dispersing the huge waves released by Hannibal. To both sides, and the thunder spear continued to advance, it still advanced several meters in front of Lei Luo. However, the momentum behind the giant waves is endless. Although the front waves are scattered, the rear waves are still fierce, and the momentum of the thunder spear is constantly being weakened. It is in response to the proverb that the back waves push the front waves in the Yangtze River, and one wave is stronger than the other. When the thunder spear was silently extinguished in the huge waves, Ulquiorra's black wings flapped behind his back, avoiding the huge waves and flying towards Hannibal in the form of black light. Although the 10 blades is ranked below Hannibal, this is not important to Ulquiorra. His name in the 10 blades has determined that he is difficult to be interested in anything. Even if the strength is ranked at the bottom of the 10 blades, it has nothing to do with him even if he is not among the 10 blades. Desperate people, even life. It is meaningless to them. Ring. Seeing Ulquiorra approaching, Hannibal snorted lightly, and the king shark in his hand stopped spraying water, and the figure disappeared instantly. Boom. A loud bang sounded several meters away in front of Lei Luo, and in the overflowing spiritual pressure, a pitch-black spear and a large white sword pressed against each other. After a while, the 2 fighting faces separated, and then collided quickly. Both sides of the battle were using Ring Zhuan to move, so the attack speed was quite fast. It's hard to see their attack moves. In the battle between the 2 sides, Lei Luo quickly found the shortcomings of Hannibal. Her attack method is too simple, and most of her attack skills are related to water, which makes her skills relatively weak and unable to quickly solve the enemy in a short time. But Hannibal also has her own advantages, that is, her defense is quite good. Even if Ulquiorra's attack after returning to the blade, it is difficult to break through the giant water curtain sprayed by the queen in her hand. It's no wonder that Hannibal was seriously injured by Aizen himself in the anime. If she were to fight Hitsugaya Toshiro again, I'm afraid that the complete Bankai of Hitsugaya Toshiro would have been exposed to Aizen. If Ulquiorra doesn't have a second rank return blade, then Hannibal's ranking 3rd in the 10 blade is well deserved, but... Lei Luo looked at the battlefield. At this time, the two sides of the battle were already standing on both sides. After looking at each other, Ulquiorra raised his right hand and pinched the black thunder spear in his hand. Ulquiorra's spiritual pressure instantly soared as the pitch-black spiritual energy spread to the surroundings. Second stage: return to the blade. The tone is still light, without the slightest emotion. As Ulquiorra opened the second stage of returning to the blade, his upper body clothes immediately turned into a spiritual child and disappeared, and black liquid began to flow out of his eyes, which slowly flowed along the tears under his eyes, and finally disappeared in the void. After a while, Ulquiorra's tears changed from 1 to 2, the whites of his eyes also turned green at the same time, and the pupils also became similar to the pupils when the mask was blurred. From the abdomen to the legs, the arms and back quickly grew black feathers. The robe that disappeared from the upper body was divided into two halves at the back of the lower body. The wings behind it were fully opened, and bat-like claws grew. At the moment of forming, a demon tail that can be freely controlled grows behind it at the same time. At the same time, the horns of the devil on his head began to grow and become pointed upwards, and a bony object similar to a knife grew on the tip of his tail. Sharp claws appeared on the exposed toes, and the hollow hole in his chest became larger. A strange black pattern appears in the virtual hole to the abdomen. Roar. As if to vent the skyrocketing Reiatsu, Ulquiorra roared for the first time after completing the transformation. The Reiatsu surged out as it roared, forcing Hannibal, who was closest to him, to take a few steps back. As this, the second stage of returning to the sword. Hannibal looked horrified. This was the first time she saw the second stage return blade of the broken face, and she felt both envy and fear in her heart. This level of Reiatsu, it's as heavy as an ocean above the sky, and it's as powerful and special as any Reiatsu I've experienced so far. If I understand the second stage of returning to the blade, can I also have such a level of spiritual pressure? Hannibal lost his mind in an instant, and his face was broken. Even if he had awakened the wisdom of human beings, his essence was still empty. Therefore, in the face of the overwhelming power displayed by his peers in front of him, he had an infinite longing in his heart. The gun of thunder. It was still the spear of thunder, but this time, the jet-black spear condensed by Ulquiorra made Hannibal feel deep fear. I can't stop the Reiatsu that lingers on the pitch-black spear like the ocean. Hannibal seemed to have seen her end. When the pitch-black spear shot at her, Hannibal, who was the 30th blade, chose to give up resistance, because she knew that she could not stop the surge. Moving the spears of death and despair. Don't worry, as my subordinate, it's hard to want to die. Lei Luo's voice sounded behind Hannibal, like a long drought land encountering nectar, and Hannibal suddenly had a longing for life in his heart. Master, save Hannibal. As the 30th blade of the broken face, Lei Luo was stunned by Hannibal's performance at this time. Like a little woman, Hannibal turned to look at Lei Luo, her eyes full of longing for life, and her tone of voice was soft and waxy, which was very different from her previous performance. This change almost didn't make Lei Luo feel that he had auditory hallucinations. If Matsumoto Ranju, the beauty of death, spoke in such a tone, maybe Lei Luo would take her into his arms for a while, but Hannibal suddenly said this with such a tone, it almost turned Lei Luo into a monk. Chapter 385_Sharp Turn. Just when Lei Luo felt inexplicable, the situation on the battlefield suddenly became weird. All the captains of the God of Death were stunned in place at the same time, and after a few seconds, the captains of the God of Death turned their heads at the same time, facing their side. The camp partners rushed over. Boom. Call out. For a time, the captains on the Death God's side fought with each other, and several captains of the Death God who were slightly weaker even met and were knocked out by their enemies. Ah. Damn. In just a short moment, the leader of the Death God killed and injured several people in a row, and the rest who were still standing in the air were also injured. Lei Luo looked at everything in front of him, and suddenly understood what was going on. He turned to look at Aizen, who was holding Yamamoto Yuanliu Saijokuni in the distance. Sure enough. At this time, Yamamoto Motoyanagi was trying his best to release his spiritual pressure, but with the fire-devouring prince by his side, his extremely hot spiritual pressure could not spread to too many places, and he was only protecting his body. Only a few meters around. At this time, Aizen had already left the battle circle, and the Zanpakudo Kyoka Suzuki in his hand was being held in his hand with the tip of his sword pointing down. Anyone who has read the original work knows that when Aizen's Zanpakudo is seen Shikai once, the person who sees Shikai will be controlled by the five senses, so when Aizen puts the tip of the knife down and casts Shikai again, the five senses will be completely manipulated by Aizen. Among the Shinigami, all Shinigami captains have seen Aizen's Shikai, so this situation can only mean that Aizen is ready to launch the final attack. Sure enough, Aizen with the blade pointed downward, saw Captain Death's death, wounded, grinned, opened up in a blink of an eye, and disappeared into the battlefield. After a while, a few small Yan Yuhi's blood flowers disappeared from a daze. Captain Death, who was on guard around him, appeared on his body. Although the situation on the battlefield was changing rapidly, the scene in front of them still made many Grim Reapers stare blankly. The one who had the great advantage in Lei Luo's dazzling performance, the situation turned sharply down in a moment. Now the Grim Reaper, except for Shigekuni Yamamoto, the commander-in-chief of the Shinigami, everyone else had already fallen into the air. A group of ants also want to stop me from creating Wang Jian. It's really beyond their own power. Aizen stood in the void and looked down at the entire Kakuzumaki, her eyes twinkling. As expected of Urahara Kazuki, he even tossed out a giant gate that transferred the entire empty town to the Soul Realm. Call out. I saw Aizen wielding a knife in front of him, and a pitch-black piercing gate appeared in front of him. Where I want to go, no one can stop me. Stepping into the gate of crossing the world one step, at the moment Aizen's figure was about to disappear, a blade instantly penetrated Aizen's chest. In the distance, Ichi Silvermaru, who was restraining Yamamoto Motoyanagi, opened his squinted eyes, and it was the Zanpakudo in his hand that penetrated Aizen's chest. Finally, and I can't live anymore. Aizen turned her head diagonally, and looked at Ichi Silvermaru in the distance from the corner of her eyes. Yeah, I've been waiting for this moment for too long, and today I can finally make you pay for what you've done. How does it feel to watch your goal be reached but suddenly fail? Captain Aizen. The corner of Silvermaru's mouth smirked, but his tone was freezing. As a famous undercover agent in the world of Shinigami, Ichi Silvermaru finally revealed his true purpose when Aizen was about to achieve his goal. Ichi Silvermaru, I have been waiting for this moment to come, to be pierced by your Zanpakudo to prove the value of Benyu. When he spoke, Aizen's body began to change. I saw that his body was divided into two, and he quickly left after being hit by the Zanpakudo stab of the city Silvermaru. After that, the body wounds healed quickly, and he didn't see any movement. Came to the city of Silvermaru. As a reward for helping me evolve, I grant you a happy death. The gate of crossing the world opened again, and Aizen walked past the city's Silvermaru, without a single stop. In the real Kakuza town, Aizen was not walking in the void, and all the gods of death who blocked him had been wiped out by him, including several vice-captains of the squad who had not gone to the world. Looking at the humans sleeping on the road and in the house, Aizen looked cold, and a light blue ball quickly appeared in the palm of his hand. Benyu, let Wang Jian be born. As if to understand what Aizen was thinking, Benyu flashed in the air, and then a dazzling blue light erupted. The entire city was soon shrouded in blue light projected by Benyu. In the blue light, the sleeping humans were unknowingly sucked dry of their souls. At the same time, beside Benyu, a key flashing white light gradually took shape. When the key was formed, the entire Seraiti seemed to be quiet, and at that moment, the white light key seemed to have become everything in the entire Seraiti. Aizen's mood also became very excited when the key was formed. With the Wang key, he could rush into the Lingwang palace and replace the Lingwang. Coupled with the collapsed jade in his hand, he will become the first Wangshu to disappear, and there will be an existence that unifies the soul world, the spiritual court and even the present world. Just thinking about it made Aizen feel so excited, so that a slight fluctuation suddenly appeared in the void around him, and he was not aware of it. You think a bit too much, and Wang Jian should still be handed over to someone like Shang Shang. Lei Luo walked out of the gate, turned into golden light and came directly to Wang Jian, and held Wang Jian in his hand. After waiting for so long, I finally got the king key. Holding the Wang key, Lei Luo was very excited. With this, he could find the Spirit King, break the seal at the bottom of hell, and save his son in the pirate world. You dare! Lan Ran's angry eyes seemed to him that he was not worried about Benyu being robbed, because Benyu had integrated with him when he helped him evolve for the first time. No matter who took Benyu, he could recall it with a single thought. Sure enough, when Wang Jian under Lei Luo wanted to reach out and snatch Benyu, Benyu flashed away, returned to Aizen's body, and at the same time helped Aizen evolve another level. A pair of fleshy wings grows out slowly behind Aizen, each with a pair of eyes at the ends. Aizen's body is also wrapped in a layer of white meat at the same time, and the head is completely covered, leaving only a large mouth of blood. There. The eyes on the fleshy wings turned, and Lei Luo was quickly identified as the target. The bloody mouth opened wide, and a blue spiritual bullet similar to a virtual flash gradually condensed and formed, shooting towards Lei Luo with a terrifying spiritual pressure. Effortlessly dodging the blue spirit bullet, Lei Luo no longer retained his strength. The Pluto cloak was added, the Godzilla outfit was turned on. A pair of bloody Yuhi Mangekyo Rinnegan stared at Aizen, who turned into a monster, and Higher Inmaru in his right hand also turned into the ice, and snow dragons are flying around, bringing snowflakes down. Chapter 386-Wish. The battle broke out in an instant, and the monster-shaped Aizen, Reiatsu, is extremely terrifying, and when you open your mouth, you can spit out a powerful blue spiritual bullet, and its power is no less than the tailed beast bomb released by 10 Tails in Hokage. However, Lei Luo, who was in the Godzilla costume, did not take him too seriously. He saw his right hand raised, and the surrounding ice and snow dragon quickly formed an ice wall in front of him, throwing the blue spirit bullet. Blocked. Moreover, the terrifying spiritual energy contained in the blue spirit bullet was frozen even before the ice wall. At this time, Lei Luo, using Higher Inmaru, could already create an ultra-low temperature of absolute zero for attack and defense. Broken Road 96. Black Coffin. The monster-like Aizen roared in the sky, and along with the pitch-black wall rising from the ground, Lei Luo was instantly sealed in the black coffin. Break. But before Aizen was happy, Lei Luo smashed the black coffin and jumped out of it, coming to Aizen. I'm too lazy to spend time with you here. I saw Lei Luo's eyes widen, and the demonic illusion of Samsara Sharingan was activated, instantly pulling Aizen's consciousness away. But in just a moment, Aizen's eyes regained their brilliance. Little demonic illusion, useless to me. Aizen, who is assisted by Benyu, waits for another consciousness to help him in real time, so he will not be easily misled by any hallucinogenic skills. Shish. The meat wings behind him fluttered, and 3 large-mouthed meat strips sprang out from the wings, and the Godzilla costume wrapped around Lei Luo continued to eat. It turned out to be eating the psionic power to maintain Godzilla's outfit. Immediately understood the attack method of these meaty wings with large mouths, Lei Luo took out Higher Inmaru again and froze the 3 pieces of meat into ice cubes. The frozen area began to spread to Aizen along the meat strips, and Aizen hurriedly stepped back, and decisively cut off the connection between the meat strips and his own body. Boom! When Aizen was retreating, a soft sound came, and a crack appeared in the white flesh membrane covering Aizen's head, which seemed to be a chain reaction, and the crack quickly spread to Aizen's entire body. Is it going to evolve again? Lei Luo knew that if he wanted to kill Aizen in his current state, he could only use absolute power to defeat his beliefs and prevent Benyu from continuing to evolve. Aizen of Jade admits. To do this, Lei Luo is confident that he has this ability now. The falling heart flame in the body burned wildly, and the power poured out continuously and merged into the Higher Inmaru in his hand. Seemingly feeling Lei Luo's mood, the ice and snow dragon Yangtian transformed into by Higher Inmaru let out a silent roar. His body instantly soared, and his body instantly enveloped the entire vacant town. What kind of power is this? The terrifying Reiatsu suppressed the re-evolved Aizen. He thought that after breaking the cocoon, he could overwhelmingly defeat Lei Luo's Aizen, and his body felt the terrifying Reiatsu surrounding him, as if it would be torn apart at any time. In such a terrifying spiritual pressure, Aizen's beliefs could not help but shake a little, and Bengyu, who was perfectly integrated with him, also showed signs of detaching from his body. Ice Dragon broken. With a thought, the giant dragon that Higher Inmaru transformed into circled around Lei Luo's head, and then slammed towards Aizen in the distance. The materialized Reiatsu froze everything at the scene with absolute zero. Higher Inmaru was liberated once again on the basis of Bankai, the true meaning of Zanpakudo's soul was released, and the outbreak of terror Reiatsu formed the biggest cold wave in the history of Seoraiti. The entire Kakuza town was frozen in an instant. Not only that, the cold wave was endless, rolling and surging all around, over the barrier set up by the gods of death guarding Kakuza town, and spread to the adjacent Liuhun Street. Countless souls living in Liuhun Street were frozen by the cold wave, and those who were lucky enough to escape the killing of Aizen and hid in Liuhun Street to communicate were not spared either. Boom! The cold wave surged forward, crossed the Street of Souls, and was about to reach the Serange in the center of the Soul World, but was stopped by a huge transparent barrier. The transparent enchantment flickered with light, and the cold aura surged. The two only stalemate for a moment, and a crack appeared in the enchantment that blocked the cold current. In the Seraiti, all the Shinigami left behind exclaimed in surprise. They all saw the previous scene. The cold wave that shattered the barrier that guarded the Seraiti had become the source of the end of the age of Shinigami in their eyes. As the cold wave passed by, many gods of death could not resist the low temperature of the cold wave even if all the spiritual pressure erupted. They were instantly frozen and turned into crystal human-shaped ice sculptures. Looking at the scene in front of her, Lanran's eyes were horrified, and she finally faced the ability of Zanpakudo, the first ice element in the Soul Society for the first time. This is an ultimate Zanpakudo that is comparable to Zenka no Tachi in the hands of Yamamoto Motoyanagi. It has not been able to show such power before, because Hitsugaya Tashiro's Reiki upper limit is not enough. The frost dragon hovering above his head, surrounded by a Godzilla costume, Lei Luo flashed to Aizen and looked at the boss, the villain of the God of Death, who had returned to the original appearance of the God of Death. Bang Yu, who lost contact, used Wang Jian to leave the Soul Realm. Ling Wang, I'll meet you right now. In the Dead Soul world, Lei Luo found the sealed door leading to the Lingwang Palace from the Jingling Court. After using the Wang key, the door opened, and dazzling white light seeped out from it. Under the light, Lei Luo noticed it seems that there are eyes looking at him from the door. The gods of death of the Zero Team, don't hide and hide, come out together, and the service will end sooner. The golden light flashed, and Lei Luo, who was in Godzilla, did not stop, and stepped into the open door. When he reappeared, he was already in a group of palaces. On the opposite side, there were 4 figures watching Lei Luo on alert. The main army, Ikibe, Kirin Temple, Tenshiro, Shutara, Senjumaru, Urmea, Wang Yu. Lei Luo said from the faces of the 4, and called out their names one by one, which surprised the 4 of them for a while. They haven't been active in the spiritual garden for a long time. Since they became members of Team Zero, their daily life is completely carried out in the Spirit King Palace. Except for Old Man Yamamoto and several other senior gods of death, they should not there will be new gods of death who will know their names. But the 4 of them were not curious. After all, Lei Luo's heir at this time was not goodwill, and the 4 of them didn't act immediately, just because they didn't want to destroy the crossing gate leading to the Lingwang Palace in Jingling Court. Now that the piercing gate has been closed, the 4 of them no longer hesitate, and each takes out their Zanpakudo and prepares to kill Lei Luo. Seeing the electric light flint, Lei Luo's mind moved, and the blue light of Bengyu suddenly appeared, and he instantly merged with Lei Luo. At this moment, the falling heart flame and Bengyu in Lei Luo's body also changed, and the two actually merged in an instant. He got up, and in an instant, the spiritual power in Lei Luo's body soared hundreds of times. Withdrawing it to the outside world, the Godzilla attire that enveloped Lei Luo expanded thousands of times, and 1 foot already occupied less than half of the Lingwang Palace, and before it moved, half of the Lingwang Palace had collapsed into ruins. Before Yibei and the others could escape, Lei Luo had already stepped on his feet. The poor members of Team Zero, no matter how strong they were, could not resist Lei Luo's fusion of Bengyu and 100% of Bengyu. Later strength. Next, Lei Luo stretched out his hand, and the remnant of the Spirit King that was sealed in the central palace broke through the seal, and was directly held by Lei Luo in the palm of his hand. It seems that he was attacked by Lei Luo's strong spiritual pressure, and the Spirit King, who had been sleeping all the time, slowly opened his eyes. Looking at his situation, King Ling was startled at first, and then he saw clearly the underworld robe on Lei Luo, with a clear look in his eyes. Without saying a word, King Ling had a wry smile on the corner of his mouth. His thought of becoming Wangshu was nothing but an empty dream after all. Lei Luo was also too lazy to think of the Spirit King's crooked thoughts. He clenched his palms slightly, and pinched the weak Spirit King to death in his hands. With the death of the Spirit King, the gate of hell appeared behind Lei Luo, and the gate of hell was opened, and the breath from the bottom of hell drifted out. Those who were tortured at the bottom of hell were for the first time from the bottom of hell saw the light. And Lei Luo, from the gate of hell, noticed some kind of breath that could wake up his son.